Hello. Actually, I want this chat over my head. I messed up when I redid the chat. Give me 1 second. There you go. How's everyone doing tonight? My name is Snake Man. I am the captain of the Dream Harrier, the ship that flies through gaming space. Welcome, Plombo. Welcome, everyone, to... What is this, a 7th? Yeah, 7th session of 428 Shibuya Scramble. Some shit really popped off on this one. Why does my music be in here? This scene is all messed up. I need to redo this scene. This OBS scene. But that's not what we're here for. We're here for 428 Shibuya Scramble from Spike-Chunsoft. Originally a Wii game from 2008. It never left Japan until 2018 when it got a PS4 and PC port. And that's what we're looking at today, the PC port. Right, I'm in Xbox mode on this controller. You have to excuse me as this game has very crazy volume that varies very wildly. Alright. We have a lot to talk about. A huge explosion has rocked the Shibuya area. A van believed to be carrying Maria, though we know for certain that isn't the case, just exploded. Hitomi is injured and is being carried away by Achi. And Maria actually witnessed the explosion, and it triggered some memories for her. Sorry, I'm still playing with the audio. However, the detective with the gun has decided to use Maria, and is now holding a gun to her back. So that's where we left Achi and Maria. We haven't seen Kano in a while. Minorikawa was also caught in the explosion. We need to solve that. So let's go with Kano. Let's see what Kano's up to. I hit the wrong button. I gotta remember I'm on an Xbox pad even if it doesn't look like one. He has FMV. Kano practically dived from the car when it arrived on the scene in Maruyamacho. Right, so Kano's partner got stabbed. The place was teeming with officers and onlookers alike. It's motion. It's FMV. It's full. It's most of the way motion. Out of the way, please, move aside. Kano forced his way through the throng. Sasayama was lying in a massive pool of blood. Sasayama! Kano rushed to his partner's side. The knife was still embedded deep in Sasayama's belly. Its handle shuddered each time he drew a labored breath. Guess I messed up. Sasayama could only manage a raspy murmur. Please don't try to talk, Kano urged. Looks like I won't be celebrating the Mrs. birthday. Sasayama drew a small package from his pocket. It had been neatly wrapped and fitted with a pretty little ribbon. Here, give this to Mi-chan for me. Kano shook his head. No way. You can give it to her yourself. You've never met Mi-chan, huh? She's real pretty. Probably surprised how pretty she... I know. You've told me all about her. Kano, please. Give this to my wife for me. Mustering up the last of his strength, Sasayama pressed the gift into Kano's hand. Sasayama? Sasayama's hand dropped back down into the puddle of blood. A paramedic team finally arrived at the scene. As Sasayama was loaded into the ambulance, Kano felt a surge of rage roiling inside him. Clenching his fist so hard his nails dug into his palm, he marched over to the captive Al Karawan. "You son of a bitch." He wound up for a punch to Al Karawan's face, only to have his arm caught forcibly by the elbow. Spinning his head around, he found Stanley standing there. "Let go of me, Stanley." But the American had a grip of steel, and Kano's arm wouldn't budge. "They allow you to assault suspects here in Japan, do they?" Kano bit his lip, and then lowered his shaking fist. "No, of course not," he growled. Al Karawan let out a nasal chuckle as he watched the pair. With a cold glare, Stanley strolled over to him. He leaned in close to whisper something, and all at once the blood drained from Al Karawan's face. Visibly shaken, Al Karawan said something back to Stanley. Stanley gave a slight nod, then left the captive with the police escort. Kano went over to him. "Hey, what was that all about?" "Apparently, Al Karawan gave Hitomi some instructions. Told her to get into a blue minivan that was parked along Dogenzaka." So Stanley's hunch had been correct. But why had Al Karawan confessed so quickly? How'd you get him to talk? "You don't need to know that." Turning on his heel, Stanley went to report the news about the blue van to the task force. I'm getting Al Karawan and blue van mixed up. Kuze immediately directed the detectives nearest Dogenzaka to look into it, but they found no blue minivan in the area. Yeah, Al's caravan. The order then came down from all personnel to search for the vehicle. Kano thought back to another item in the Dick diary. Dick Dictum number 14. Use the dead as a stepping stone, but be sure to die a stepping stone yourself. In the abstract, Kano could appreciate the nobility of self-sacrifice, but when he thought of Sasayama's blood-stained figure, it wasn't so easy to keep his emotions in check. First time you've ever seen a fellow officer get hurt? Stanley had come back over to him. We don't have time to relax. If you can't keep your anger in, then do something about it here and now. Stanley pointed to his own jaw. Hit me. American style. I love that, American style. That's a, I get what the Dick Dictum is trying to say. I get, if police officers, I guess, have this assumption, right, that every mission or whatever, every operative is their last, right? I go around punching everyone in the face. That's American style, baby. Kano smiled wryly at the unexpected proposal. No thanks, I'll be fine. Hitting the man wasn't going to make Kano feel any better. I'm the one who deserves to get hit. Thinking about Sasayama, Kano couldn't help but feel guilty. Nah, we're throwing a punch, American style. Without a word, Kano threw a punch. This is how we get Stanley to respect us. Stanley soaked up the rage-fueled blow, his face a mask of calm. Kano felt all the more miserable in the face of such unflinching resolve. If I weren't such a bumbling clod, Sasayama would never have. Hey, don't blame yourself, Stanley said. You guys have been doing better than I expected. More sarcasm, huh? Stanley's mouth curled up sheepishly, and he held his hands wide. Kuze's voice suddenly cut in over the wireless. We've located the blue minivan. It's in Jinan 1 Chom on Kowendori. He told me he might be there. And maybe the kidnapper's ringleader would turn up too. On pure reflex, Kano broke into a run. Stanley followed close behind. They sped through the back streets, making their way towards Kowendori. Kano was a pretty fast runner, but Stanley kept up with him without apparent difficulty. Were you in the army or something? No, the Marines. Oops. My buttons are all mixed up. I could have swore it was the top button. No, actually, I know, right? It is this button. United States Marine Corps, a rapid deployment force specializing in amphibious landing operations, an independent branch of the armed forces, along with the Army, Navy, and Air Force. The Marines' motto is Semper Fidelis, Latin for always faithful. It wasn't much further to Kowendori. Kano, if we find that van, don't get too close, Stanley warned. It could be a trap. These people will do anything to carry out their goals. I'm like looking because it's like Kano, if we find that van, don't get too close, end parentheses or end quotation, Stanley warned, and then says it could be a trap, these people will do anything to carry out their goals, end quotation. There's no start quotation. Look, I don't mean to like bag on the translation or the release of this game, but it just keeps happening. I just keep spotting things. Anything, huh? Kano could sense the truth of Stanley's words. He reminded himself that his life could depend on remembering them. He raised his eyes. They were coming up on Kowendori. Suddenly, a boom as loud as cannon fire shook the area. Oh, Xenogears is a mess, if I remember right. How's that going, by the way? Something's wrong, Kano thought. That's no ordinary city noise. A column of black smoke rose up from between two nearby buildings. More FMV! Well, kinda. It's grainy. I love it. Passerby stopped and stared, gasping in alarm. FMV! I like that this chapter has FMV for every character so far. I guess we can't say every character, but like we haven't seen Minorikawa have FMV, but or Osawa, because we haven't played Osawa yet. So I love it. Then Kano saw flames. This hadn't been an accident. Someone had set off an explosion. The Shibuya precinct wasn't too far from here. Kano recalled the attempted bioterrorism attack on Kasumi Gaseki. I'm still lowering the volume every now and then. 2 years ago, the Tokyo Metropolitan Public Safety Commission obtained intel of an imminent bioterrorist attack within the city. Immediately afterward, an unoccupied minivan exploded outside the Metropolitan Police Department, and a device for dispersing a bacterial contagion was discovered at the subway platform at Kasumi Gaseki Station. Having determined that the city bureaucracy was the target, the Japanese government contacted the terrorist organization responsible in secret, making a deal to put an end to the threat. Is that real? Chad, is that real? That incident had begun with a van exploding outside of the Tokyo MPD station. Already a large crowd of onlookers were gathering. No, not real? Okay. I feel like I would have heard something if it was real. It's marked as a 428 thing. Is there like some timeline you're looking at that just has like, here's the real events, here's the made up events? Shouts rose up as they took in the scene. What's going on? What happened? That car is on fire. Kano called into HQ, then quickly slipped around to the back of the burning vehicle. It was a minivan. Oh. Oh, how do I do that? I can't reread it. Wait, can I can do this. Oh, so I've never looked up there. So it says 428 up there. Does that mean that's an event that's only for 428? Okay, I don't think I ever noticed that. You're right, okay. Interesting. I bet the tutorial told me that and I just kind of forgot. Peering at the flaming chassis, you could see that there was someone inside. Oh no. Could that be Hitomi? Once they had their hands on the antiviral, the criminals would have no further use for Hitomi Osawa. Already, the body had been charred to ash. At this point, it was hardly recognizable as human anymore. Keep out. I still say it's Mr. Tanaka. Look at all this trash up here. What happened? So that only leaves us with Osawa to get the keep out done. Maria and Achi are currently in there to be continued. There are some choices that maybe might lead to Miku. But right now our goal is to find Miku. The thing about Osawa's, though, is that his story happens while the van exploded. I've never truly trusted anyone. Not on a fundamental level. Oh, by the way, he's having currently a mental breakdown over his assistant possibly being behind the I guess I shouldn't say possibly. It's clearly he's behind something. I've never trusted anyone, not on a fundamental level. Human beings are a type of organism that I can't get a true handle on through mere surface interactions. And the very fact that I've never trusted anyone else means that inevitably no one else has ever trusted me. In the end, maybe the root of all my problems can be traced back to my heart. As he waited for Minorikawa to contact him, Osawa thought about his current crisis. Dude, Minorikawa's dead. Assuming Tanaka was behind the kidnapping, then he must have accomplices. And these criminals had mistakenly abducted Maria in their attempt to get at the antiviral drug that was in Hitomi's blood. Maria and Hitomi were fraternal twins, but they looked similar enough to be mistaken for identical twins. Still, Tanaka would never confuse the two. The mix-up must have been made by some criminal who didn't know Maria or Hitomi personally. Insisting that Hitomi bring the ransom to the train station was obviously their solution. They had set her up for a second abduction. But piecing together this much of the kidnapper's plan only raised a different question. Why had Tanaka shown him those emails from Hitomi? Wouldn't the criminals want to keep information like that hidden? The more Osawa thought about things, the less they made sense. Just who are my true allies? And who are my foes? Mr. Osawa, a delivery has arrived for you. It was Kajiwara at the study door. Come in. Kajiwara stepped into the room and handed Osawa a letter-sized envelope. Osawa checked the label. Kaming, the official Aya Kamiki fan club membership application enclosed. Requires 1,000 yen initiation fee and yearly dues of 3,000 yen. Membership grants several perks, including the opportunity to reserve concert tickets in advance of the general public. Osawa is fond of the members-only website content, which includes Aya Kamiki's blog and exclusive videos. Exclusive. Right. He had requested the application the day he'd gotten back from overseas. Would you mind opening that? Kajiwara asked, apologetically. What for? I'd just like to check the contents of any packages you received today, sir. It's possible the kidnapper may try to make contact with may try to contact you by mail. Osawa opened the envelope. Inside he found the expected application along with several postcards featuring pictures of the singer. Kajiwara peered pointedly at the postcard images. You must really like her, the detective said. And what sort of music do you listen to then? Osawa asked, staring at one of the postcards. It was a striking photo that showed off Kamiki's expressive eyes. Let me think. Mostly classical, I suppose. Osawa raised a quizzical eyebrow. You know, Kajiwara continued, like Mozart and Chopin and the like. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, 1756 to 1791. Austrian-born music prodigy and classical composer. Famous works include The Marriage of Figaro, The Magic Flute, and Symphony No. 41, known as the Jupiter Symphony. And Chopin. Frédéric François Chopin, 1810 to 1849. Composer and pianist of the early Romantic era. Famed as a national musician of Poland. Left behind numerous solo piano works. Famous works include his Nocturne, OP number 9, number 2, and his Piano Sonata number 2. He hummed a few bars. Can't say I've ever heard of them. Are you serious? Kajiwara looked shocked. I'm familiar with the names, of course. I just never had much of an interest in music. Oh, that's such a shame. Would you care to listen to a piece now? I suppose I might as well. Now that he brought it up, Osawa was curious to know what sort of music Kajiwara enjoyed. No thank you, not now. Osawa preferred silence to unfamiliar music. Let's open up Osawa's brain, you know? Let's open up his mind. Give him some new tunes to relax to. I suppose I may as well. Now that he brought it up, Osawa was curious to know what sort of music Kajiwara enjoyed. The detective pulled a digital music player out of his pocket. Here you go. Osawa slipped the attached earbuds into his ears. He heard a flow of quiet strings that was soon joined by bold, dramatic horns. As the piece continued, it grew more profound and complex, and Osawa could feel his spirit calming. He took a deep breath, then expelled it through his nostrils. It felt as if the toxic gloom that filled him was departing with the air. Before he knew it, nearly 10 minutes had passed. Oh, what do you think? It's quite nice. The theme of this piece is, Kajiwara paused for a moment in thought. Well, it's about how erudition can be boorishness. Accumulated knowledge. The term often connotes an advanced and/or esoteric understanding. Displaying a moderate amount can impress others, but pompously flaunting it is bound to put them off. Thank you. If I hadn't met you, I'd never have discovered this piece. He spoke the words unthinkingly, with unaccustomed frankness. Was this the power of music, then? I am very happy to hear that, sir. Osawa gazed at one of the postcards as he let himself be drawn back into the music. Aya was scooping up handfuls of mystical blue sand. Ooh, magic sand. The grains dripped down from her fingertips. I feel like I could be in this photo here, Osawa muttered. Like I've lived my life letting so many things slip through my fingers. Kajiwara thought for a moment before responding. I think anyone who's worked hard to accomplish something and focused for a long time on that one thing is susceptible to those kinds of feelings. Accomplishing something means getting results. Oh, sorry, that's Osawa. Accomplishing something means getting results. That's not where my problem is. Osawa removed the headphones and gave back the music player. I want to see Kajiwara's sick iPod. You told me not to hide things from you, right? Kajiwara nodded silently. Then allow me to speak frankly. Leaning back heavily in his chair, Osawa took another deep, slow breath. I'm anxious. So anxious that it's almost crushing me. Given the circumstances, sir, that's completely No, Osawa spoke up before Kajiwara could finish. It's not that. It's not that at all. He shook his head vigorously. If the worst should happen to my daughter, how am I going to feel, I wonder? I'm not a man with a wide range of emotions. My heart is always cold somehow. And the truth is, I've wanted to be that way. Which is why, if I do lose my daughter, my heart might remain unmoved. I may not even be able to feel a father's sorrow. That's what I'm anxious about. He felt his emotions twist inside him in a way that was utterly confusing. For perhaps the first time in his life, he realized how fickle a thing the human heart could be. It's alright, sir. Kajiwara flashed him a carefree smile. What's alright? People who really have cold hearts don't worry about that sort of thing. The detective held out his music player again. Here, I'd like you to have this. Please give it another listen if you like. I think it might help you calm your nerves. Osawa took the offered device. He had dared to open up to Kajiwara just a little, and to his own surprise, he felt grateful for it. And he got a free iPod. And how about one of these as well? The detective produced a banana from his pocket. He's always equipped. He's always ready. I'm fine, thanks. Are you sure? You know, I think they're bonding. I think it's time for the banana. Alright, I guess I'll take it. Osawa spoke irritably, then his expression softened a little. You need extra potassium. You know, you've been getting on my nerves all day. Yeah, I guess this is 2008, so this is, Shuffle probably. Or the iPod Nanos. I have a whole bunch of Nanos because my dad worked at he worked at like a speaker place. And he just kept getting them. And then I had the Zune. I loved the Zune. Except for the software. Hated the software. Loved the Zune. Really? And here I thought I'd been doing what I could to soothe your spirits, Mr. Osawa. It's actually been a real long time since I've yelled at anyone quite so much. As his words left his lips, Osawa found himself thinking back to that one particular rainy day. I believe in Osawa and Kajiwara, yaoi. Maria had been in the 5th grade at the time. Osawa was standing in his daughter's room. In his hands, he held the letters she'd left behind. He happened to glance out the window and saw Maria walking along, soaked from head to toe. In an instant, Osawa was consumed with rage. Maria had left a note. It read, Dad, you only pay attention to Hitomi. You're too busy with work to play with me, so I'm running away from home. Struck by an impulse he didn't quite understand, he ran from the room, heading for the front door. I mean, every kid does this, right? Every kid tries this shit. Maria had just gotten back inside. Osawa met her silently in the entryway. Wet strands of hair clung to the girl's forehead as she looked up at her father with a bitter glare. You don't care what happens to me, do you? Impulsively, he slapped her face. Maria's cheek turned red, and tears welled up in her eyes. Osawa's anger transformed abruptly into guilt. He gazed down at the palm of his hand and saw a tiny spot of blood. He was shocked by the recognition of what he had just done. And then he was afraid. Afraid that his daughter could bring such raw emotion out of him and make him do something so thoughtless. It was then that Osawa decided to become a robot. Is something wrong, Mr. Osawa? Kajiwara was leaning in, looking concerned. Osawa came back into the moment with a start, and realized he had buried his face in his hands. No, he muttered, looking up. Just getting angry, yelling at people. I'm not good with that sort of thing. I don't like it. He picked up the music player and fidgeted with the earbuds as he spoke. Well, getting angry and yelling at people, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's just human. It's human to do those kinds of things. I often said that he was cold and mechanical. Her sarcasm only underlined the fact he'd always lived with, that he didn't know how to conduct himself like a human being. If you get angry, you show it, Kajiwara said. If you get sad, you show it. It's human nature to let other people know how we're feeling, after all. But what if doing that hurts the other person? That's when you apologize, sir. Ah. It occurred to Osawa that he'd never tried to tell anyone how he felt before. He'd never felt the need to. And yet, right now, he suddenly felt that, if his daughters were to appear before him, he might blur out everything he'd ever left unsaid. It was a terrifying thought. Darling. I opened the door and stepped into the room. The detectives are asking for you. It seems there's been a development. We'll be right there. Damn it, eyes getting in the way of my Osawa-Kajiwara romance. Osawa and Kajiwara hurried out of the room. This can't be anything but good news, right? Right? Okay, so we're in an Osawa keep out, and we're in a Kano keep out. We do have jumps. Achi has 2 jumps. I don't remember, because it's been a week, what those jumps are. So Achi has 2 jumps. Maria doesn't have any jumps, at least right now. Yeah, I mean, it's been a week. It's always hard when the jump comes and you can't take it. So let's see what we got. Achi's ending jump. Run other guy who's looking for Miku. Minorikawa's looking for Miku. Is there a way to influence Minorikawa's story? I'll have to look. What is this other jump? I think this is a Maria jump. But let me just make sure. Again, it's been a week. It's a little hard sometimes. Yeah, that doesn't do us anything as of right now. Here's the thing, it's possible that a jump or a choice change would make it. Yeah, we probably did that one before. We can see if Osawa has jumps. We can also try affecting Minorikawa's story. I already did both choices of this. One led to a bad end. One led to a bad end earlier, I think, than this bad end. Now, we never lost sight of Yanagashita. We always stayed on his tail. So maybe we were meant to lose him. We know that Miku is probably around the Endo Electronics area. I think. I don't know, it just looked like she was in the back alleys that also Achi looked like he had already been in. Let's try that. Probably he was headed to Endo Electronics. So we just jumped to Minorikawa and we changed his timeline. He was originally chasing the Afro guy, Mr. Yanagashita, who had stolen his laptop. But now we're gonna try a different location in hopes of not getting Minorikawa killed. It was the only local place he could think of that might buy a secondhand computer. Damn. The guy had led him on a wild goose chase. Minorikawa started running towards Dogenzaka. As he approached the scramble outside the station, he caught sight of a skinny figure disappearing into the throng along Center Guy. A suit with deep bluish stripes. There's only one man he knew who dressed like that. Why was he heading down Center Guy, not towards Dogenzaka? Oh, now he remembered. There was a second-hand knick-knack shop near where the Burning Hammer demo had been held. He recalled seeing a poster out front that read, "We buy computers at top prices." Okay, so it looks like this is going to lead back into what we already are locked into for Minorikawa. That had to be it. That's where Yanagashita was planning on selling his laptop. Changing directions, Minorikawa darted down Center Guy. There you are. And yep, that's old content. We could try the other one. Like I said, I kind of had the feeling that maybe they all ended up there in the beginning anyway. I think this is not helping us find Miku. Probably he was headed towards the sales demo venue. Maybe he was planning to find some more customers and auction the laptop off to them. Damn, that guy led him on a wild goose chase. Yeah, I'm gonna guess this all leads into the same thing. It wouldn't make sense that Minorikawa is the one to find Miku. We need to find someone to find Miku to bring her to Minorikawa, I guess. Minorikawa ran along Center Guy towards the Nokane building where the sales demo had been held. Before he got there, however, a glance to one side stopped him in his tracks. Aha, he chirped. He had spotted the knick-knack shop where he'd run into Miku about 2 hours earlier. Out in front of it was a poster that read, "We buy computers at top prices." Now he was certain. Yanagashita must be in there. Okay. And that's, again, back to that. So those are all the choices for Minorikawa. Kano had one choice and it was about punching Stanley. Could that do anything? I think Achi's choices are probably the most interesting. It could maybe lead us. We did both of these options. We remember Achi got stabbed in one of the options, which was cool. He got stabbed by High School Musical. We can check this choice real quick. Alright, so this is when he's like looking at like other things going on. But maybe he sees something else when he switches over to a different camera. Alright, my bad. She switched over to a different camera. He continued switching views, scanning the streets of Shibuya, but there was no sign of a blue minivan anywhere. It hit a save point. And yep, that's all old content. Okay. So that choice doesn't help us. There's a choice here. This is when Hitomi approaches the van. I get the feeling this probably won't do anything, but let's just, rule that out while we're still here. Alarm bells start going off in Achi's head. Someone from the kidnapping crew was in that van. It was dangerous to approach carelessly. Stay back, don't get too close. Achi shouted, but she didn't appear to hear his cries. Yeah. So what do we have? We have a jump to Minorikawa, or we have a jump to... We have a jump to Minorikawa, he can't make that jump. We've looked at all of Achi's choices for this hour. So next is Kano. And Kano's only choice is to do something else with the guy. Which I guess punching didn't really do anything for us. Let's have a guilt trip. Let's be a wet cat about it. I'm the one who deserves to get hit. Thinking about Sasayama, Kano couldn't help but feel guilty. If I weren't such a bumbling clod, Sasayama would have never... Hey, don't blame yourself. You guys have been doing better than I've expected. More sarcasm, huh? Stanley's mouth curled up sheepishly and he held his hands wide. This is all the same. Yeah, that's all the same. We'll check the other one, but yeah, I don't see how this would ever change anything. No thanks, I'm fine. Hitting this man wasn't going to make Kano feel any better. Stanley's expression remained unchanged. It's not like I don't understand why you wanted to punch the guy, he said quietly. If I didn't have to question him, I wouldn't have stopped you. Kano wasn't sure what to make of that. Are you encouraging me? Stanley held his arms wide. Don't know. Maybe. And then Kuze. Okay. So that didn't change anything. So Minorikawa's choices are all locked here. Does Maria have any choices? Osawa has no... Osawa does have choices, but I doubt they would affect what I need affected. Maria has a choice at the beginning. Might be the only one, because, I mean, she's the one that meets Miku and talks to her. Maybe this changes the conversation with Miku. Maybe she never meets Miku, and Miku is free to interact with Minorikawa. So this was the choice about the assassin with the gun. We chose to throw a box at him. I need to do something about that gun he has, and then make a run for it. We, like, slammed a crate into his face. It was really awesome. Let's try to remain motionless, waiting for an opportunity to run away. I remain motionless, waiting for an opportunity to run away. I might not make it in time, the man murmurs to himself under his breath. Not make it in time for what? I'm curious now, but this is hardly the time or place to try to find out more. I've learned for certain that I'm not Hitomi Osawa, which basically tells me nothing. I'm right back to square one on figuring out who I am. The assassin has gone quiet, sitting on a pile of crates. He seems lost in thought. Still, I don't dare try to get away. All I can do is stand and wait and mull over my own situation. Just who am I? I ask myself again and again. I am... No, I have no business with you. No, I have no business with you, the man finally says. Go. Don't worry, I won't follow you. I wonder if I can believe him. Maybe he's just trying to get me off my guard so he can shoot me in the back. Do not go to the police or go back home, he continues. Lay low by yourself for a while. How long is a while? Until around sundown. This should all be over by then. Now we might be getting close. I think we're around like 4 or 5 o'clock, right? Sundown might be 6 or 7 over there. It'll all be over? I have no idea what it is, but I decide not to pry in case he decides to change his mind. Okay, I'm going to run away now. Sure. I take a slow step backward. I'm starting to turn away when he speaks up again. Before you go, I need to tell you one more thing. What's that? When you get your memories back, I'm sure you're going to hate me. And so I apologize in advance. Of course, I have no idea what he's talking about, but it makes me even more uneasy. I truly am sorry. I've got no response for that, so I just give the man one last look before I turn and run. He's gonna kill your sister. Ducky duck. I decided to look for some place to hide out for a while, as the gunman suggested. So this is all new dialogue. I mean, we got new stuff before now then, too. But since I don't really know my left from my right in this town, that's easier said than done. Before I realize it, I've made my way back to the knickknack shop where I bought the necklace. Okay, so she's gonna be at the knickknack shop. Or maybe not. Maybe I could hide out in here? As I contemplate that possibility, I hear an all too familiar voice. Tama 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 Tama. There's Mr. Yanagashita on the floor of the shop. He's been tied up with some rope. Huh. I thought he got away. You thought this was Suzuki Bakahatsu related? I mean, we have explosions. I would like to play Suzuki Bakahatsu. I just don't know how much I would get from not... Like, I saw the Retropals play it, and they used a guide, because, you know, it's in Japanese. And you kind of need some Japanese to figure out what you need to do. I don't know if bashing my head against it will be good or not. What's happened, boss? Look, this is all just... I was framed! I thought he got away from the shop when he found the bride flyer. But maybe this is changing that event. A rare live action game that's even more insane than this. Yeah, I would love to stream it. I don't know what the best way to do it. Nah, whatever's happened, I'm pretty sure it was his fault. It was all his fault. Just call it a hunch. He says I'm a thief. Well, I say he's the thief for selling stuff he finds around town. Hey, the sales clerk steps into view, scowling. Oh, this must be Minorikawa never made it to the knickknack shop. He probably ran into Miku, because Miku didn't run into Maria. Yeah, I mean, there's not too many games that have this look. There should be more. Just what are you implying? What in the world is going on here? I haven't the foggiest. Tama, help me. Please. Yanagashita kicks and squirms like a hyperactive child. Do you know this man? The sales clerk asks. No. Well, I mean, sorta. He's a real pain. He's been making a scene like this for as long as he's been here. I find it hard to imagine a worse way to interfere with someone's business. I hate to ask, the clerk continues, but could you take him to the police for me? The police? Yeah. Oh, well, the police. The gunman did specifically warn me not to go to them. I feel no loyalty to that killer, but I'm reluctant to antagonize him. And for reasons I can't explain, I have a strong sense that going to the police right now is a bad move. But Mr. Yanagashita isn't privy to my thoughts, and he looks up at me with a hopeful gleam in his eye. Yeah, that'll work. Tama can take me to the police. And then we can put this all behind us. All's well that ends well, right? Well, sure. Feeling like I have no choice, I leave the shop with him. Okay, Mr. Yanagashita says excitedly as soon as we're out of earshot. Now let's go find Chidi. Huh? Aren't we going to the police? What? No, we're not really gonna go. Oh man, I'm so glad you showed up, Tama. Now come on, let's go find Chidi. From the big grin on his face, I have an inkling of what's coming next. That's right, he has the eating competition flyer. You've thought of another get rich quick scheme, haven't you? Goodness, Tama, you could see right through me. It's not that difficult. It's practically written all over your face, boss. But Mr. Yanagashita isn't really listening. He's too full of enthusiasm. This time, I got a line on 10 million yen. So come on, let's go make ourselves stinking rich. He punctuates his grand announcement by pointing fervently at some non-existent listener. Not even he's caught the pointing disease. Yeah, it's very good. That was a very good transition. Oh, cool. We're like some weird bad end. Iron Stomach, a celebration of truly astonishing appetites. When the mighty stomach triumphs over the endless... I didn't read it all. I stand with Chiri on the winner's podium. The cheers and applause are deafening when the master of ceremonies makes the announcement. Chiri is the champion. She laughs with delight as she holds up the trophy that signifies her 10 million yen win. And me? I got runner-up. Wow, pretty good. I wasn't too into the idea at first, but after giving it a shot, I found that professional gluttony kind of grows on you. Hey Gurislachi, we just found him tied up in the pawn shop. Even I was surprised by how much I could eat, and I had to admit, it felt kind of good. My memory still hasn't come back, but that doesn't matter anymore. I found myself a new purpose. To steal Chidi's spot on the throne. That right there is now my greatest goal in life. The Throne of Gluttony. Tama never got her memories back. She ended up starting a new life on the competitive eating circuit, which may not be a horrible fate, but wouldn't it be better if she recovered her old life as Maria? When she was cornered in the alley by the man with the cane, there's someone who could have turned up and helped her out. Yanagashita. But he can't do that if he ends up getting tied up at the knick-knack shop. Wait, so I have to get Yanagashita to interrupt the guy with the gun? So what do we know about Mr. Yanagashita? He steals the laptop. He steals the laptop here at 15:05. Alternate universe Maria. Jeez, let me think. The only thing I can think of that interacts with that is, oddly enough, Achi. Because we already looked at both of these options, right? One of these options gets in the way of Achi, right? One of these options gets in the way of Achi. The other... keeps us going. Right. Agreeing to take on responsibility leads us into running into Achi, which leads into Achi getting murdered. Achi... This is weird. I don't know what to do. Supposedly nothing after, before 15 o'clock, 1500 affects this. Osawa's nowhere near that. Kano is kind of doing his own thing, dealing with his partner's murder. We somehow undid Kano's to be continued, or not to be continued, it's keep out, which is weird. But we know he isn't a keep out. We probably did it because we changed all his options here, but we didn't see the keep out. I wish that kept consistent. I think it has to be Achi. But can he affect? They have this crazy chase sequence. This has to happen before the chase sequence. Maria and the gunmen are at 1500 and 1505. How does Yanagashita get there? The WAM never mattered, right? Once more, Achi set off running. Achi led Totomi to the multi-tenant building. The custodian's there. He's like, hey, you brought a girl! He talks about his dad. Will this change? Achi continued to track the seedy-looking man. So that's Mr. Yanagashita that he's looking at. The weirdo rushed into a knickknack shop on Center Guy. Soon after, the man with the coat appeared and followed him into the shop. Aha, it looks like he snatched that guy's computer. So when we did Maria's story, that event never happened. But maybe now that we've seen it on the cameras... No, Maria's still in the bad end. Also, this is, way after these events. What's up? Is Mr. Minorikawa different? Mr. Minorikawa is different. Yeah, now I see what you're saying. But where did it change? So in theory, this is going to give us different results? But how does that affect Maria? Maybe it doesn't, because we were already in a to be continued. We're like using alternate events to alter actual events? Because if Maria never meets Yanagashita, she never gets rolled up into the eating competition. Yeah. I'm just interested, that's all. Will my choices be different? No, I mean, they're the same, and they're red already. But, like, if I went to, like, somewhere else, would something happen? Okay, so this is new content, because this won't let me go past this when hitting Yanagashita. You're the idiot, Buster. Minorikawa smacked Yanagashita right across the face. Ouch! It even felt good. He decided to do it again. He drew back his arm to deliver another blow. But then someone else came into the shop. Yanagashita's eyes lit up as they saw who it was. Oh, my angel! Whatever is my darling Miku doing here? Yanagashita knows Miku? Okay, so this changed. So, in my timeline right now, Maria had not had the conversation with Miku. Miku was on some steps. She was like questioning what she was doing. Yeah, I think I remember him talking about Miku now while Tama was still in the cat outfit, like after the fight. Okay. So yeah, Maria has not talked to Miku, which means Miku is here. Mr. Minorikawa, she began. Then her voice choked up. Miku, what's the matter? Something wrong? Miku drew in close to Minorikawa's side. Huh? Huh? Look at Yanagashita. Look at the shit-eating grin. Yanagashita's gaze darted back and forth between Minorikawa and Miku. You two know each other? Sorta. More to the point, is she the girl you said you were in love with? That's right, the one and only Miku. I have her entrance music set as my ringtone. Oh, I want to hear that. Paying no heed to Yanagashita's excitement, Miku kept her eyes fixed on Minorikawa. I lost to a girl who knows Aki Jujitsu. I lost. She buried her face in Minorikawa's chest. Yanagashita let out a gasp. What's this about? What in the world is all this about? He seemed on the verge of panic. Mr. Minorikawa, I need to learn Aki Jujitsu. I feel so ashamed. She buried her face even deeper into Minorikawa's chest. I had a feeling that Miku had a thing for Minorikawa, but... That's so unfair! With tears in his eyes, Yanagashita darted out the door. Minorikawa glared after the pathetic fellow as he scampered off. The guy sure knows how to take advantage of a bad situation. I'll give him that, he murmured. I can't let him get away. I'm gonna catch him and hand him over to the police. Anyhow, I'm just glad I got my partner back. I don't think you should be chasing Yanagashita down. The important thing is you got your laptop. Ordinarily, he'd been inclined to pursue Yanagashita and subject him to a tearhead, at the very least. But there was no time for that now. He explained the situation to the shopkeeper, who flashed a sympathetic smile. Is that so? Lucky for you, he screwed up, then. Much as I'm happy to do business, I just can't buy a computer that doesn't come with its accessories. So you had bought it from him if he had the accessories. Yeah, I'm very interested in what's gonna happen. I mean, in this timeline, Mr. Yanagashita is free. Maria wouldn't run into him in the knick-knack shop, right? Of course, stolen or not, it's all the same once I've sold it. The shopkeeper chuckled unapologetically. I suppose that's true. Minorikawa laughed along with him. Yeah, all the same. Like hell it is, he roared. Point at him. The shopkeeper froze like a startled rabbit. I bet everything you have here for sale has been stolen, hasn't it? Don't be ridiculous. I'll warn you up front, there's no use hiding things from me. I've interviewed you after all. I know you. The shopkeeper is getting more and more flustered. Well, I mean... Look, this is just between you and me, okay? Sometimes I go around gathering stuff that people have lost, and I sell it here. But it's not stolen, just repurposed. There's nothing wrong with that, right? The The shopkeeper smiled ingratiatingly. You moron. Minorikawa stuck his finger in the man's face. Selling lost property is a serious crime too. A potential violation of Article 254 of the Penal Code of Japan regarding embezzlement of lost property, which states, a person who embezzles lost property, drift property, or any other property which belongs to another person and is in no one's possession shall be punished by imprisonment with work for not more than 1 year, a fine of not more than 100,000 yen, or a petty fine. Look how sad Miku is. It is? Well, I mean, I guess I sort of figured it might be sometimes. Well, I'm not the police. I'm more into curiosity and legality. In fact, I find this all pretty fascinating. I mean, what sort of things have you gathered up for sale? Well, let me see. Like this and that and that and that. The man pointed to various items on the shelves. And also this and that and that and that, I guess. Minorikawa's eyes were directed all over the shop. I think you should take the typewriter. Everything the shopkeeper pointed out had a hefty price tag. And you're actually able to sell things like this? Minorikawa asked. Sure, I could sell stuff. Earlier today, someone bought a big necklace. I'd listed it for 40,000 yen, but I discounted it down to 30,000 yen. And you can still make a profit, even offering discounts? Sure, I mean, it was just something I found lying on the ground, after all. Minorikawa looked back at him, and for a moment he laughed as well. Then his face turned hard. This is no laughing matter, he bellowed. You need to stop what you're doing right here, right away. Otherwise you're gonna find out what it's like to get punished by my pen of justice. I'm so sorry. The shopkeeper bowed repeatedly. Minorikawa glared. The truth was that right now he was so busy he'd have to let this guy slide. Still, this whole asinine affair had eaten up a big chunk of time he didn't have to waste. He's going to have to finish up his coffee back at the editing office. Laptop in hand, he left the shop, only to stop short when a slight figure stepped out in front of him. Mr. Minorikawa. Miku stood there, barring his path. Please, introduce me to a dojo where I can learn Aki Jujutsu. I'm sorry, I don't really have time for this right now. Minorikawa tried to hurry onward, but she stubbornly refused to let him pass. You introduced me to that other dojo before, remember? I suppose so, now that you mention it. He tried to slip by her on the right-hand side, but she was quick to block him. You're the one who introduced me to the world of martial arts, Mr. Minorikawa. Does she look like she'll accept that? Well, yes, you know you're putting me in a bit of a bind here. Trying to slip by on her left was a no-go, too. She could anticipate his every move. Please, just hear me out, Miku said. She was speaking through quiet sobs now. I can't stand to leave things like this. She looked Minorikawa right in the eye. Let's see, so we can say sorry, you'll just have to persevere until you're able to win again. This is a good opportunity for you. You can find something to do with yourself that isn't martial arts. I'm sorry, but I don't have the time to have this discussion right now. So C is like the most dismissive and probably won't get her to stop. But it also doesn't involve like having her give up martial arts, which is something I don't want her to give up. I want her to beat the shit out of people. You'll have to persevere again until you win again is also kind of like a tough luck, kid. Just try again next time, huh? Like, let's try the C option. Again, I'm reluctant to use the B option. That's my principles. My principles is Miku needs to beat the shit out of everyone. I need to get this copy wrapped up by 4 o'clock. This discussion? You were already a champion at that one pub, right? Maybe this is a good opportunity. You could just wash your hands in the martial arts world. No! No, 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 I didn't pick that. Miku began to shake. Okay, yeah, fuck him up. You jerk. Miku delivered a blindingly fast slap to Minorikawa's cheek. Why'd you have to put it like that? You're so mean! Bursting into tears, Miku ran off. Hey, Miku! She gave no sign she'd heard him, and didn't turn around. Minorikawa rubbed his cheek. It stung. For once, he actually regretted what he'd said. Maybe he shouldn't have assumed she'd be willing to just give up her hobby. He did in fact know of several Aki-Jujutsu dojos. If only he had the time, he could have introduced her easily enough. Checking his watch, he saw that he only had 30 minutes and change until 4 o'clock. There's no more wiggle room at this point. These articles needed to get written, and fast. He needed to get back to the editing department. And yet... Oh, damn it all, I can't get work done like this. Minorikawa broke into a run. But he didn't run for Heaven Publishing. Instead, he went after Miku. Keep out. Interesting. So we do have a keep out, or we do have a jump for Minorikawa. Interesting enough, Achi's timeline has also been deleted. Maria is also currently in free. Okay, well, you know it was in Achi's thing. But wait, wasn't it? I don't remember which jump it was. Let's go back to Achi. Okay, so we should keep this choice the same, right? The weirdo rushed into a knick-knack shop on Center Guy soon after the man with the coat appeared and followed him into the shop. Aha, it looks like he snatched that guy's computer. Moments later, the weirdo came rushing back out of the shop and sprinted away again. Okay, so this is new. Yamagashita is a free man. He wove through the narrow alleyways with cat-like alacrity? Achi did his best to keep tabs on him, but the man managed to give him the slip. Wow, Hitomi said. She had too been watching closely. I'm kind of impressed. Mind if I keep at it? Achi asked. My sister's kidnapped, asshole. Sure. He continued scanning the camera images, trying to locate the guy again. At this point, even Hitomi was invested in the quest to find the fugitive. How are they this easy? I already said that they're both stupid. They're just stupid in different ways. And they're perfect for each other, right? But minutes passed and they didn't spot him. Achi was on the verge of giving up. Oh, that's me. Hitomi took out her cell phone. So is this new? It's an email from Mr. Tana. Found him. Achi's shout cut Hitomi off. Rude. Achi, rude. The guy was in a back alley off of Center Guy. This is gonna change everything. If Hitomi sees Maria, there's no reason for her to go to the van that explodes. The guy was in a back alley off of Center Guy. He was talking with someone. Huh? Is that? Achi blinked a few times as he leaned in closer to the screen. Hitomi, you have to come look at this. Ah. That's my sister. Hitomi brimmed with excitement. For real? I think so. What's she doing in a place like that? And why is she talking to that guy? I'm not sure. The monitors showed a cheerful little scene. Looks like they're having fun. Guess since they're twins, they're both into older guys. Achi felt his mood start to sour. Achi, you were so stupid. I have to ask, are you sure she was kidnapped? Yes, at least I sure thought so. And so did the police. Also, that lady assassin thought so too. Then what's all this about? Should we go and see for ourselves? Guess so. Oh, what about that email? Achi pointed at Hitomi's cell phone. Shouldn't you take a look at that? My sister comes first. That place where she is? Is it far from here? No, not particularly. Achi and Hitomi rushed from the building, headed for the alley where Maria was talking to the computer thief. So we have a jump for Maria. We probably don't need it yet because she's not at a keep out point yet. It wasn't long before they were closing in on their destination. But as they headed down a narrow side street, a familiar figure suddenly appeared to bar their way. Uh-oh. Oh, it's him. Gun in hand, the man with the cane slowly ambled towards them. Achi and Hitomi bolted down a nearby alley. Taking another turn, they reached the alley they'd seen on the cameras. Maria! Maria! Hitomi rushed over to her sister. But Maria just stood staring at Hitomi in silence, as if she couldn't process what was going on. Meanwhile, the assassin was still in pursuit. He had turned the corner behind them and was steadily drawing nearer. He pointed his gun at Hitomi's head. Come on, hurry, Achi urged. He tried to lead the two girls away, hoping to escape further down the alley. But instead, Maria charged boldly at the man with the cane. Fuck him up! Oh no! The assassin was caught off guard by the unexpected counterattack, but he reacted quickly, clubbing the girl in the head with the grip of his pistol. No! Not Maria. Maria! Hitomi shrieked. She stared in horror as her sister collapsed in a heap on the ground. Where was Mr. Yamagashita? Then Hitomi's eyes rolled back in her head, and she fainted into Achi's arms. This is not a good time for this, Hitomi. Hitomi, hey! But the shock had overwhelmed her. She was out cold. Slowly, the assassin lifted his gun again, aiming for Achi and Hitomi. If only he had, if he had only had Hitomi to protect, Achi might have been able to pick her up and get away. But he couldn't just leave her sister here. He knew, with the chilling certainty of despair, that he could never save them both. Okay, so I guess we gotta choose a different direction. Sisters in the alley. Finding Maria had seemed like such a stroke of luck, but it led to Achi and Hitomi running right across the killer's path. This never would have happened if Achi hadn't gotten distracted with tracking that weirdo on the cameras. If he'd focused on looking for the minivan instead. It's like weird, right? Because it's like, technically finding Maria would be better, but of course then this happens, so it's not better. It's interesting that it has a jump for Maria. But I guess there's always a jump for Maria. Because Hitomi's email gets a jump for her as well. I guess we need to change our choice. I mean, glad we saw that, because we got to see Yamagashita do funny things on the camera. Alright, my bad. Alright. So he's back on his normal timeline of going to the blue minivan, it blowing up, Hitomi getting injured, but not dead, only injured, and Achi carrying her. So this is a jump point for Maria. I had a jump point for, yeah, the other guy. There it is. Minorikawa is free. Running along Koendori in pursuit of Miku, Minorikawa heard a cell phone ringtone coming from somewhere nearby. Oh! That's not good. Suddenly, a massive fiery blast knocked him out from his feet. A deafening roar set his head throbbing. We did hear that ringtone in the intro video with the mysterious person in the van. A deafening roar set his head throbbing. What was that? What's going on? He lay in a daze on the ground, trying to wrap his mind around what had just happened. Miku, save him. He smelled the foul scent of burning rubber. Then came a sound of quick footsteps rushing up to him. Mr. Minorikawa. A voice called out to him as if across an impossible distance. Mr. Minorikawa. Was that Miku? He forced his eyes open and saw Miku looking anxiously down at him. Mr. Minorikawa. Miku. Those things I said earlier, I'm sorry. I went too far. What are you talking about? That's not important right now. Miku choked back a gasp, but Minorikawa realized he had blood leaking from his mouth. Oh. His body wouldn't move and his mind was reeling. That's not good looking. What happened? Tell me. Miku's voice was dry and hoarse. There was a minivan. It exploded. Exploded? A minivan exploded on a city street? That sounded like a terrorist act. His reeling mind drifted back to the attempted bioterrorist attack on Kasumi Gaseki 2 years earlier. An unoccupied minivan had exploded outside an MPD station, and afterward a device meant to scatter a dangerous biological agent had been discovered near the subway. I wonder if we're gonna find out that this was like a test run or something of this plan. With sudden clarity, Minorikawa recalled what Osawa had said earlier. The power balance of the entire world might be at stake here. Could there be some sort of connection between Osawa's warning and this explosion? There was. There had to be. Minorikawa's journalistic intuition told him it must be true. Something terrible was underway here in Shibuya. Police, a man in a suit announced. He crouched beside Minorikawa and gently lifted his head and torso. It's Kano. Hang in there, buddy. Stay with us. The change of position allowed Minorikawa to clear his airway, and he sucked in a deep breath. But as he did, an intense pain shot through his lungs. I think I might be done for. Whatever his intuition might be telling him, it didn't look like he'd be able to write about it. But if he couldn't get his words onto the page, the least he could do was tell someone else. With his last act, maybe he could still accomplish something. He strained to get a few words out. Osawa. Kenji Osawa. The power balance of the entire world. As his voice failed, he heard the sound of an ambulance sirens approaching. Paramedics began frantically unloading stretchers. Turning his head, he saw a number of other people who'd been injured in the explosion, laid out on the roadside. Amongst them were a woman and a child. Emergency workers bearing a stretcher came over to Minorikawa. Forget about me. I'm beyond helping. See to the others instead. Minorikawa shouted inwardly, but no one heard. Premonition of disaster. Man, we just keep getting Minorikawa blown up, huh? Minorikawa chased Miku as far as Koendori, only to be caught in the blast when a minivan suddenly exploded. A few simple words can change his fate, Someone who shouts something at 1530 needs to change what it is they shout. If Minorikawa hears something that grabs his attention, he may not get too close to the explosion. 1530. Who do we have at 1530? I think Kano is at his keep out at 1530, but he doesn't have any choices. Maria is free right now, so we should check Maria. Just checking on Osawa. Check on the old guy. Alright, so Maria's having the who am I thoughts. The assassin has gone quiet, sitting on a pile of crates. He seems lost in thought. Still, I don't dare try to get away. All I can do is stand and wait, and mull over my own situation. Just who am I? I ask myself again and again. I am... Tama! Tama! I am... Tama? Tama? I turn at the sound of an exuberant voice and see Mr. Yanagashita running my way, flailing his arm in a friendly greeting. I swear, this guy could wind up banished to the pits of hell and he'd still give it his all, day in and day out. Oh, thank goodness. It is you, Tama. I knew it. The man with the cane grumbles something incoherent, then holsters his gun and flees the scene. Huh? Now you're with some middle-aged guy? You look so sweet and innocent, but I guess you kinda get around, huh? Why does everyone jump to such conclusions? Can't a lady talk to some guy without it being like, oh, they fucking... Boss, nice timing. I do a little fist pump. Whatever he's doing here, I'm glad he drove off that guy with the gun. What are you so happy about? Yanagashita gives me a puzzled look. But he's promptly distracted by his own excitement. Well, anyway, never mind that. Tama. He shifts down to a conspiratorial whisper. You know, I am such an idiot. I can't believe I was such a tizzy over some silly scratch card from a magazine. I can tell he has news he's itching to tell me. Did something happen? Well, tee. He brings a hand to his mouth and giggles unsettlingly. I had a great little idea. A great way to strike it rich. I feel like I've heard this from you before. Mr. Yanagashita shakes his head fervently. This time it's different. We're talking way more digits than before. Now try not to be too surprised, yeah? Spittle flies from his mouth as he rattles on. Or, it's okay to be surprised, actually. In fact, I'm guessing you're definitely gonna be amazed this time, Tama. I can practically see the banknotes dancing in his eyes. Cut to the chase already. What is it you want to tell me? This time, get this, I got a line on 10 million yen. He thrusts his index finger skyward, grinning ear to ear. Surprised now? Yeah, you are. And it doesn't require any capital. It's no risk, high return. In the world of equity investment, a wise investor weighs risk against the potential for return. Many heavily risky projects, however, yield little in the way of actual returns. Such cases are called high-risk, low-return. The inverse, low-risk, high-return, is quite rare. The idea of no-risk, high-return is simply absurd. There's a crazy gleam in his eye. Oh man. I'm finally gonna get... I guess it's him talking. Oh man, I'm finally gonna be part of the Billionaires Club. I'll get to meet my boy Elon. You know this guy's an Elon guy. It's 2008, he doesn't know any better. That's so ridiculous, I don't even have a snappy retort for it. Never mind that 10 million obviously wouldn't make him a billionaire. By the way, you haven't seen Chiri, have you? We're gonna need her help to wrap up this 10 million yen. Chidi? No, I haven't run into her since the sales demo. Ah, darn. Well, if you do happen to see her, tell her to get in touch with me. Sure, alright. I still don't know what he's going on about, but there's probably no harm in being helpful. Thank you, Tama. Guess I might as well give you a little hint. A hint? Yeah, a hint. Wanna hear it? I feel like she wouldn't care. No, not particularly. Oh, okay. Well, anyway, thanks for helping me out with that cheery thing. Adios! And then, like a whirlwind, Mr. Yanagashita zooms away, leaving me alone in the alley. Phew. Suddenly I feel totally exhausted. I let out a sigh and dropped my eyes, and that's when I noticed a notebook on the ground at my feet. Right, she does take this in the other timelines. This is, the detective's notebook. Did the assassin drop this? I pick it up and look inside. There's a photograph tucked inside the back cover. Wait, how does... You know, I know that the detective is after Hitomi because he knows that she has the antivirus, but... Why does he know that? I guess I never thought about this. This could be a picture of the detective and, Osawa. Maybe they're friends. It shows 3 young people, 2 boys and a girl. Maybe the girl is, Hitomi and Maria's, actual mother. I don't know. We'll never know. I bet it's not important at all. That would require Osawa to have friends. But here's the thing. This detective knows Hitomi and Maria. Like, he knows that there's 2 of them, right? Now, he could just know that from the file, or case files, right? But, I don't know. I think maybe there's more to it. Well, what do I do now? Do I go to the police? How would I even explain the situation? I can see it now. Oh, I think this is all the same. Yeah, okay, so we're back where she sees the explosion, has memories of Kanan, and then the detective finds her and says, I'm going to use you as bait. So she's back to her to be continued. Okay. So she's there. We didn't find out... What was... 1530. He needs to hear something... Maria is currently walking around here. She doesn't have a choice. The explosion basically happens right here at 1535. Achi is also had to be continued. He does. You're right. He does shout. So he has 2 shouts, right? And only one of them says Hitomi. And Minorikawa knows about Hitomi from the beauty contest. So that might be enough to get Minorikawa's attention. Hitomi, wait, I just needed to know what time, you know, then I would have figured it out. Achi shouted, but she didn't appear to hear his cries. Okay, so that should be the same. I think it saves when you do a choice, which completely changes Minorikawa. That's right, we did change that choice at some point just to see what would happen. Hitomi, wait! As he ran along Koendori after Miku, Minorikawa heard someone shout out a familiar name. Hitomi? It was a pretty common name. Ordinarily, he wouldn't have given it a second thought. But he remembered that one of Miss Midoriyama's winners was named Hitomi Osawa. That made him curious. There's the ringtone. A moment later, he heard a cell phone ringtone. He immediately recognized it as an Aya Kamiki song. His reporter instincts tingled. He stopped to take a look around, and one young woman caught his eye almost immediately. He couldn't assume that any pretty girl he saw was Miss Midoriyama. After all, it'd be a little too convenient if he had just happened to run into her now. Still, it didn't cost him anything to ask, "Are you Hitomi Osawa?" He might as well at least check. But to his own surprise, he hesitated in embarrassment. He'd never been too embarrassed to ask a question before. He didn't get a chance to contemplate that realization. Kaboom! Kablooey. Hitomi has just been has just been killed. A massive fiery blast knocked him from his feet. A deafening roar set his head throbbing. What was that? What's going on? He lay in a daze on the ground, trying to wrap his mind around what had just happened. Behind him, there was a minivan, fiercely ablaze. A minivan? An explosion? The first thing to pop into his mind was the attempted bioterrorist attack at Kasumi Gaseki 2 years earlier. An unoccupied minivan had exploded outside an MPD station, and afterward a device meant to scatter a dangerous biological agent had been discovered near the subway. In the end, no one had been harmed, but there were rumors that the government had paid a terrorist organization a hefty sum to keep it that way. Right now, Minorikawa was a stone's throw from the Shibuya precinct. Could this be a repeat of the Kasumi Gaseki attack? The entire area was in an uproar. People were running around in panic. Minorikawa could see several injured people lying on the ground, unmoving. And yet, despite the gravity of the situation, numerous onlookers were casually taking photos with their cell phones. Ain't that the truth? Minorikawa got to his feet, then went to try to get everyone away from the scene of the explosion. Hey, you guys, get back! There could be another bomb! Minorikawa looked around as he pushed back the crowd. He was getting the strong whiff of a scoop. He needed to write his copy ASAP, but he couldn't just turn his back on the situation now. The two young men were strolling toward the burning vehicle. They had the look of juvenile delinquents. Whoa, what the heck? Is this for real? Ain't this dangerous? Like, for serious? The pair tried to find an optimal vantage point. Hey, Minorikawa snapped. Don't get any closer. He spread his arms wide to hold them back. The young men came to a halt, but otherwise paid him no heed. Oh, this is bad. This is for real bad. Think this is a terrorist thing? Yo, get out your phone. Come on. But like, you think this is a terrorist thing? Dude, shut up. Just hurry up and call Susumu. The taller of the two, dressed in red, was ordering around his blue-clad companion. Huh? The boy in the blue huffed. Man, do it yourself. Say what now? Bitch, this ain't no time to get yourself all worked up. Minorikawa stood there, arms still held wide, getting more and more annoyed at their back and forth. Yo, just make the call, man. The young fellow in red scowled. He wasn't going to back down. Huh? Yo, what difference does it make if I do it or you do it? It doesn't make any difference, so it don't matter if you do it. Yeah, right, it don't matter. So in that case, you do it. Look, I'm telling you to just make the damn call. And I'm telling you to just make it your damn self. Hello. How's it going? Welcome, Raiders. It's another 428 night here on the Dream Harrier. What are you guys up to? The Huck? That is not the right command. Don't mind that. You're playing retro. Well, welcome Raiders. My name is Snake Man. You are in the middle of 428 Shibuya Scramble. You've been building another Core 2 Duo PC. What are you planning on playing with that? You gonna play Crisis? I guess the Crisis would be outside of that, right? Maybe just Far Cry? I need to play Far Cry. I've never have played Far Cry. Company of Heroes? I had a friend that was really into Company of Heroes. Well, anyway, a minivan has just exploded. Oh, I accidentally made the text go by clicking. It's okay. These guys are arguing to make a call to their boss. Oh, enough of this already. Minorikawa opened his mouth to tell them off, but then the young man in red spoke again. Dude, the goods from over at Endo Electronics are gone. You gotta let Susumu know. The goods from over at Endo Electronics are gone. So these are the SOS guys, the group of juveniles. Achi, you know, is the son of the guy who owns Endo Electronics. Achi is the founder of SOS. Why did they take stuff from Endo Electronics? And how is it gone now? Did they help? The name Endo Electronics caught Minorikawa's attention. Huh? Yeah, but ain't that all that Achi dude's fault for getting all huffy at us? I mean, it was Kiryu who told us to go find the Endo storehouse. So, I theorized that Maria was in... Well, she said she was in a storehouse. I theorized that it was Endo's storehouse because it was electronics related in the picture. There are electronics, old computer stuff. Yeah, but Susumu don't like dealing in stolen goods. Says it dirties the SOS name. Well, what a coincidence. Looked like these two were SOS members. Hey, Minorikawa called out. You two. He finally succeeded in getting their attention. Where's the Susumu fellow? I'd like to talk to him. Even in the covered in ash after an explosion knocked him off his feet, Minorikawa can't resist pointing at people and getting a scoop. He had no idea who Susumu was, having only heard the name just now. Still, from the way these two were talking, it seemed clear he held some position of leadership. You think I'd tell you if I knew? The fellow in red snarled. This is a good face. Minorikawa kept his composure. Listen, you guys know the Tenryugumi. The Tenryugumi was a Yakuza syndicate that operated in Shibuya. An up-and-coming Yakuza syndicate that turned up on the scene 10 years ago. With the seemingly legitimate Takarada financing as its business front, the group offers monetary solutions for people in financial trouble. But those who accept their offers soon find that their troubles only grow and grow. Embroiled in conflict with the Kanto Shiraminigumi, who have been long established in Shibuya. These street kids were sure to be familiar with the name, if nothing else. I may not look it, but I'm pretty tight with Tenryugumi. And maybe you two don't know it, but Susumu's been showing up at their office a lot lately. Susumu's been dealing with the Yakuza? Whoa, for real? Sweet. The two punks bought it completely. What's SOS doing, using as their hangout these days? I've got a little something to discuss with Susumu. Right now it's this bar called Inferno. Minorikawa made a mental note of the name. Right, and Inferno is where exactly? The two young men suddenly looked distinctly uncomfortable. Uh-oh, later. Yeah, I got a thing I gotta do too. Backing away, they took off through the crowd. Hey, wait up. Oh, there's Achi. I need to know where Inferno is. But the pair had already vanished. Ambulances began arriving at the scene and paramedics rushed out to tend to the wounded. Excuse me, would you mind answering a few questions? Minorikawa turned to see a man in a suit approach him, flashing his badge. Well, we have the Kano jump point. It won't let us do it because somehow we accidentally erased our keep out point. So, detective have questions for him, huh? How about you answer a few questions for me? Was this an accident or an attack? We still don't know many details. Let me rephrase that for you. Look at the guy on the right. I love everyone in pictures like these, it's great. This is a major incident, Minorikawa exclaimed. Huh? The detective looked pretty flummoxed. I've been around the block a few times, and I know all your police PR lingo. And when you start talking about the details, that is 100% indicative of a major incident. Brushing aside Minorikawa's remark, the detective tried another question. Did you happen to notice anything unusual prior to the explosion? Unusual? Minorikawa thought back to the moment before the minivan blew up. Now you mention it, I think I heard a cell phone ringtone. The detective tilted his head. A ringtone? No, never mind, forget that. There's no way the ringtone on someone's phone would be audible through all of that. Minorikawa struck the thought from his own mind as he said it. In all likelihood, he'd associated the ringtone and the explosion simply because one had happened right before the other. Kano. A large-statured Caucasian man had called out to the detective. Evidently, the detective's name was Kano. Thank you for your cooperation, he said with a bow. Then he ran over to the foreigner. Mr. Minorikawa! Minorikawa turned at the female voice behind him. He found Miku standing there. She looked like she had been crying. Miku, about earlier. He trailed off, searching for an apology. It's okay, that doesn't matter right now. Miku looked around the scene. Minorikawa followed her gaze. Something big went down here, he said. I know, she exclaimed. The explosion? I saw it happen with my own eyes. You what? Miku looked around nervously. Are you alright? He asked her. You're not hurt, are you? I'm okay. My ears are still ringing a bit, is all. Good. So what did you see at the time of the explosion? Miku assumed a thoughtful expression. There was this girl who was running towards the minivan. And then I think I saw this other Middle Eastern girl suddenly make a dive for her. And then the van just exploded. Wait, hold on, Minorikawa said. So if I'm getting this right, it sounds like this Middle Eastern girl saved the girl who's running up to the van? Miku nodded. Just then, Minorikawa's phone chimed. He'd received an email. It was from Chiaki. Mr. Mino, are you still working on your copy? He checked his watch. At this point, the 4 o'clock deadline was barely 20 minutes away. Nonetheless, he decided to stay at the bomb scene. He could definitely smell a scoop here, he was sure of it. Even if he couldn't get his 6 pages done by 4, landing a major scoop should be enough to persuade the loan company. Minorikawa jotted his phone number down and handed it to Miku. I'll make things up to you, he said. Give me a call later. Miku took the scrap of paper, puzzled. If you're looking for an Aki Jiu-Jitsu dojo, I know a few. At that, her face lit up. Minorikawa decided to process the scene for clues. As he wandered around, he caught sight of Detective Kano and his Caucasian colleague heading down an alley. What's this I smell? Something's pretty damn fishy. If they were slipping away for a private conversation, maybe there was some way he could listen in. Minorikawa hurried into one of the buildings that bordered the alley. He looked around and found a public bathroom upstairs on the alley side of the building. Hoping beyond hope, he slipped up to the bathroom window. Voices outside. He held his breath and listened. Those international criminals you mentioned. Kano's words were faint, but he could make them out. Minorikawa did a little fist pump. Correct. Roughly 8 hours ago, they infected Maria Osawa with the UA virus. Then they let her loose somewhere in Shibuya. Hold on. By UA, you mean... The discussion involved some terms Minorikawa wasn't familiar with. He focused all of his mental energy on what the two were saying. This is a killer virus with a 100% mortality rate once it takes hold. 100%? Minorikawa muttered to himself. The shock caused him to unclench his fist he didn't realize he made. This wasn't just an interesting conversation. It was monumental. It has an incubation period of 12 hours. In another 4 hours, Maria Osawa will go symptomatic. After that, she'll begin spreading the virus through the city. It's capable of airborne transmission? If we don't administer Kenji Osawa's antiviral before she develops symptoms? Yes? Everyone in Shibuya is going to die. Minorikawa felt goosebumps rise all over his body. If they were talking about a virus and a Kenji Osawa, they could only mean that Kenji Osawa. He recalled what Osawa had said earlier, about the power balance of the world being at stake. There was no doubt about it. This was a tremendous scoop. Well then, we need to find Maria Osawa and get the antiviral to her as soon as possible. Just calm down. There's more to the story that... it's starting to leak out. The door swung open loudly and someone came barging into the bathroom. You knew it had to be him. There was no one else it could have been. It was Yanagashita. Why him again, and why here of all places? Oh, I'm leaking here. Yanagashita was on the verge of hysterics. His voice must have been audible outside. Kano and his companion went to take their discussion elsewhere. And they'd just been getting to the good part. Yeah, give him an ankle lock. You son of a bitch. Enraged, Minorikawa grabbed Yanagashita and tossed him to the floor. I'm leaking. Shut your mouth. He put all his strength into an ankle hold and gave it a good twist. A professional wrestling technique that involves grabbing the opponent by the ankle. Being caught up like this can be extremely painful. It also puts a lot of pressure on the lower body, and if you're already fighting the urge to urinate, well... Yanagashita wailed. Minorikawa left the idiot blubbering in the bathroom and hurried out of the building. He hadn't heard the whole discussion, but he had a scoop on his hands anyway. This would be a tremendous score for Heaven Publishing, enough to let the company rebuild. He was certain of it. And if I'm the one saying it, it's gotta be true. As he ran along, Minorikawa tried to plan his next steps. First, he had to get back to the editing office. He'd explain the situation to the people from the loan company. Then he'd go find that paperwork for Osawa, and have Chiaki check his copy. And then after that? Okay, so he still had a lot of things he needed to do. He swatted himself on both cheeks to get himself psyched up. His phone ranged. Sorry. His phone rangy. It was Chiaki. Mr. Nino? Something terrible has happened. Chiaki's voice was a broken yelp. Whoa, calm down. Over on Koendori, this minivan exploded. Yeah, I'm well aware. Thanks to that, I've got a big scoop that... Chiaki cut him off. Just now, I got a call from Mr. Toyama's daughter, Hana. This time when Minorikawa waited for her to finish, he had a sinking feeling. She said that Mr. Toyama was in there. It was a suicide. Minorikawa's knees buckled. Tell me you're joking. No, I mean the van explosion's all over the news, and Hana was in tears on the phone, and... Mr. Mino? Mr. Mino, are you still there? Toyama had killed himself? Minorikawa felt the energy drain from his body. No. Looks like we need... Oh, I thought that was a bad end, but that's a to be continued. Well, we lost Sasayama. We might be losing Mr. Toyama, though Mr. Toyama has threatened suicide many times and haven't been able to do it, so... Maybe Hana is misunderstanding the situation. Either way, we do need to get Kano back to his keep out point. All right, we have FMV. What do you think it's like getting a permit to shoot in, like, Shibuya? Because, like, didn't, like, Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift, famously have to, like, get footage illegally or something? Won't let me. Funny I mentioned that. You have an article right now from 2018, just sitting on your ready and waiting. Can you post that in the Discord for me, unless I shouldn't read it? Yeah, because I'm not gonna find a link later, unfortunately. I don't want to click it now. I'm doing the thing. Okay. So we have a jump. A jump to Kano. Several people were on the ground nearby, evidently injured by the explosion. A girl in a hoodie was crouched among them, doing her best to tend their injuries. Miku Morita, while walking along, upset at Minorikawa for not introducing her to an Aki Jujutsu dojo. She happened to cross the aftermath of the minivan explosion. Unable to stand idly by when faced with such a horrific scene, she pitched in as best she could to help the wounded. It's interesting it gives me a jump to Minorikawa. Kano recognized her as the girl he talked to earlier during the traffic jam. "Police," he announced. "Get back, let me handle this." The girl was visibly relieved. "Help her," she said. She pointed to a figure lying on the sidewalk a short distance from the burning minivan. It was a Middle Eastern girl. She appeared to be unconscious. "I think she got hurt rescuing another girl about college age," the girl in the hoodie said. "College-aged girl? That might be Hitomi." "What happened to the girl she saved?" Kano asked. The Good Samaritan looked around. "Huh? Where'd she go?" The rescuee had disappeared. "This girl here." The girl in the hoodie gestured toward the fallen girl. "I can't believe how fast she was." She spoke with a hint of awe. The way she moved to get to that other girl. She was on a level way beyond mine. Kano took another look at the injured girl. Her figure looked rather delicate. It was hard to believe she was capable of great feats of athleticism. "Why are you judging her?" He started towards her, but Stanley stepped ahead of him. So, she gave Maria a picture of Stanley and said to not trust him. So, she knows who Stanley is, and there's a good chance that... Well, Stanley knows who she is, but I don't know if he knows what she looks like, right? We just know that he knows that she's an assassin, and that she killed all the people in the bad guy terrorist bar. Leave this one to me, he said. He probably knows. His expression was unusually stern, even for him. Do you know her? Kano asked. The American didn't answer as he checked the girl's pulse and then her pupils. Hey, Stanley. Don't you have other things you should be doing? Stanley snapped. Fine then. Kano decided to collect some eyewitness accounts. Patrol cars and ambulances arrived at the scene in a steady stream. Once the vehicle fire was under control, things gradually began to calm down. Several officers worked to cover the area around the burned minivan with a blue tarp. Kano got his questioning underway, starting by flashing his badge at a man near the front of the crowd. Excuse me, would you mind answering a few questions? The man puffed himself up. How about you answer a few questions for me? Was this an accident or an attack? We still don't know that many details, Kano admitted. The man shoved his finger in Kano's face. Let me rephrase that for you. This is a major incident. Huh? I've been around the block a few times, and I know all your police lingo, PR lingo. And when you start talking about the details, that is 100% indicative of a major incident. Well, I sure picked the wrong guy to try and talk to. Stifling his frustration, Kano continued his questioning. Did you happen to notice anything unusual prior to the explosion? Unusual? Now that you mention it, I think I heard a cell phone ringtone. A ringtone? No, never mind, forget that. There's no way the ringtone on someone's phone would be audible through all of that. The man was probably right, but somehow the idea nagged at Kano. He jotted down a note in his pad. Kano. It was Stanley. Perfect timing. Thank you for your cooperation, Kano told the man. Then he hurried on his way. Stanley stepped in close enough to whisper. Who was that guy? An eyewitness to the explosion, apparently. Did he have any info? He said he heard a cell phone ringtone at the time of the explosion. Not sure if that's significant, though. Stanley stood silently for a moment, thinking. What about that girl? Kano asked. Has she woken up? No. I'm going to drive her to the hospital. Huh? Why do that yourself? Just look around, Stanley said. He cast his eyes out over the scene. There were still many injured people lying on the roadside. It seemed the authorities hadn't sent enough ambulances. But isn't your car back in Maruyamacho? Kano asked. Under the circumstances, I think it makes sense for me to go back for it, Stanley replied coolly. Besides, I have a few things I'd like to ask her. Kano was curious. You do? He asked. Stanley's cell phone rang. Yes? Stanley answered the phone in English. As he listened, his demeanor changed. The blood drained from his face, and his hand began to tremble slightly as it gripped the phone. Kano had never seen him this shaken up. You got it, Stanley said at last. He hung up the phone and let out a sigh. What is it? Kano asked. Stanley headed into an alley without responding. Kano hurried after him. Once they were out of earshot of the crowd, Stanley finally spoke. That call right now was from Gordon, my superior. He broke off there and for a long while was silent. He appeared to be struggling with some strong emotion. Kano was getting impatient. What was it? If you're going to tell me something, then tell me. Kano decided not to press. If it's that difficult to talk about, you don't have to. Kano doesn't like Stanley, so let's go with the impatient line. Kano is getting impatient. What is it? If you're going to tell me something, then tell me. Alright, Stanley said at last. I can trust you with this. Wow, never thought I'd hear you say you trust me, Kano teased. But Stanley's expression remained dead serious. We were contacted on our end by the mastermind of this plot. Those international criminals you mentioned. Correct. Roughly 8 hours ago, they infected Maria Osawa with the UA virus. Then they let her loose somewhere in Shibuya. Hold on. By UA, you mean... Kano thought back to his earlier conversation with Stanley. Those criminals were trying to get their hands on a new drug. An antiviral drug developed by Kenji Osawa that had been shown to be effective against the UA virus. Stanley hesitated before continuing. This is a killer virus with a 100% mortality rate once it takes hold. Kenji Osawa's antiviral is our only means of combating it. A mortality rate of 100%? It has an incubation period of 12 hours. In another 4 hours, Maria Osawa will go symptomatic. After that, she'll begin spreading the virus through the city. It's capable of airborne transmission? Following the onset of symptoms, individuals infected with the UA virus bleed through from the lungs, and the virus is readily released into the air via coughing. The UA virus is highly resilient in the open air, and can survive even after saliva or other fluids have evaporated. Simply getting within 2 meters of a symptomatic patient is said to carry a high risk of infection. Bodily fluids from deceased patients carry an especially high concentration of the virus, and anything contaminated with such fluids must be thoroughly sterilized before it is safe. Stanley nodded. If we don't administer Kenji Osawa's antiviral before she develops symptoms... Yes? Kano's voice was trembling now. Stanley spoke with complete certainty. Everyone in Shibuya is going to die. Well then, we need to find Maria Osawa and get the antiviral to her as soon as possible, Kano said, panicking. Stanley remained cool. Just calm down. There's more to the story than... Stanley was interrupted by a strange sound from the upper floors of a nearby building. Unsure what it was, the 2 men hurriedly relocated. We know what that was. Now it's good old Mr. Yanagashita. They paused when they came to a vacant lot. The place was deserted. No need to worry about being overheard here. You said there was more to the story, Kano prompted. The antiviral in question is stored in Kenji Osawa's laboratory. The lab is protected by a sophisticated security system, and apparently the storage area where the drug is kept requires fingerprint authentication from both Osawa and Tanaka. Wait, but Tanaka's... Kano couldn't help but gasp. Tanaka was currently a fugitive, the prime suspect in the kidnapping case. There was no chance of getting any fingerprint authorization from him at this stage. Is there any other way to get in? Kano asked. The door can also be unlocked via password in place of the fingerprint scanner. But we'd still need to know what Tanaka chose for his password. No. In any event, Stanley said, it's essential that we track down and secure Maria. But, he went on, his voice grave, even if we get Maria to safety, the mastermind is now in possession of the UA virus. If they want to, they can unleash a bioterrorist attack on Shibuya at any time. To put it bluntly, the lives of every man, woman, and child in the city are in their hands. Kano felt a pulse of fear deep enough to give him vertigo. He slowly tilted his head, What? He slowly tilted back his head and gazed at the sky, vast and blue as always. This has been a rough night for typos. There had been tens of thousands of people in Shibuya right now. Rumi and Shizuo were among them. And they might all be dead within a day. It felt so unreal. Kano's mind almost couldn't process it. With an effort of will, he shook himself out of his daze. Now was no time to waver. We have to try, he said. In the next 4 hours, we need to find Maria Osawa and figure out a way to stop this mastermind and the UA virus. The words were as much for himself as they were for his companion. Let's do this, Stanley. We might not always see eye to eye, but together I feel like you and I can find a way. But Stanley averted his gaze. My job here is simply to apprehend the mastermind. Kano felt a resurgence of his earlier anger at Stanley once again. He was putting his duties above human life. I'm sorry. Stanley's voice was a quiet mutter. You should get away from Shibuya as soon as possible, Kano. Kano hadn't imagined that the American would ever be worried for him. I appreciate the warning, he said, but I'm seeing this through to the end. This isn't the sort of thing you can solve with just an effort of willpower. Even so, giving up isn't the Japanese detective way. Stanley let out a nasal chuckle. Back to that again, aren't we? Same to you. Kano managed a tiny chuckle of his own. Listen, Stanley went on after a moment. This is just between you and me. The mastermind behind this kidnapping case is an arms dealer who goes by the name Alphard. So we did hear the word Alphard. Kanan told Achi about the name. Beyond simply selling weapons, illegal arms dealers are also frequently involved in smuggling weapons unlawfully obtained through deals with government or military contracts. In recent years, such enterprises have become increasingly globalized. Some dealers form smuggling networks that also deal in money laundering, drug trafficking, and more. Alphard. The attempted bioterrorist attack on Katsumi Gaseki, a hotel bombing in Chicago. Alphard had a hand in all of them. What do you know about this criminal? Kano asked. Stanley's expression grew even darker. Alphard's signature is extremely meticulous planning, but I don't mean meticulous in the same way you or I might normally think of it. Their plans are perfectly imperfect. Do you get what I mean? Kano shook his head. Alphard deliberately engineers accidents to make things complicated and unpredictable. It's difficult to get a good grasp of what's going on when the situation seems to be falling apart. People tend not to consider that coincidental mishaps might be anything but. In the end, they don't even realize they were playing right into the mastermind's hands all along. Kano could hear the intensity in Stanley's voice. I'm afraid that's all I could say. Stanley held out his right hand. See you around, Kano, if we're still alive. If we're still alive. Kano let that sink in for a moment. Nah, I'll shake your hand after we finish this case. With a slight smile, Stanley withdrew his hand. And then they fist bumped. Then the two fist bumped. Alright, we'll meet again, Kano. I'm sure of it. Yeah, see you then. No sooner had Stanley departed than Kuze's voice came in over the wireless. Attention all units. As of now, further investigation on the kidnapping case is suspended. The director's voice sounded strangely cold. I repeat, as of now, further investigation on the kidnapping case is suspended. Wait, hold on, sir, Kano shouted. What is it, Kano? Could you let us know why? We've received information that Maria Osawa has been infected with an unknown virus and has been released somewhere in Shibuya. That matched up with what Stanley had said earlier. An anti-bioterrorism security force will probably be deployed in Shibuya. Terrorism involving biological agents such as bacteria or viruses. Biological weapons are easier to acquire and transport than nuclear weapons, and because they rely on an organism's natural ability to proliferate or infect, they can yield powerful results for low effort. For these reasons, recent years have seen widespread apprehension about the possibility that such weapons might be used by terrorists. In the event that a bioterrorist attack occurred in Japan, temporary quarantine and decontamination facilities would be set up in the area affected. This is no longer a simple kidnapping case. Our part in this is finished. No, it's not. We haven't managed to resolve anything. Kano, I assure you everyone else feels the same as you do. Kuze's voice had a cautionary tone. They're still performing the autopsy on the body found in the blue minivan that exploded. Or, that's Kuze. They're still performing the autopsy on the body found in the blue minivan that exploded. I'll let you know once we have a positive ID. Kuze out. Director. But the line had already gone dead. Left at a loss, Kano gazed out at the cityscape. The sight of the bombed vehicle had calmed down briefly, but now that the news networks had begun reporting, the herd of onlookers was growing. There was also a sizable crowd gathered outside of a large home electronics store. The large LCD televisions on display were showing a press conference being held by the governor of Tokyo. I think Kano's still looking for the truth. Kano's part in this was over. He had to hurry and find Rumi before it was too late. It's probably a bad end, but we can always find that out later. Kano might learn something new about the case. He decided to watch the broadcast. Working closely with the administration, we are keeping a careful eye of the situation as it develops. The governor's expression was solemn as he spoke. The moment he finished his statement, the reporters bombarded him with questions. You gotta get an Aquos TV! A sharp Aquos! This seems similar to the bioterrorist attack on Kasumi Kaseki 2 years ago. Is there any possible connection? What countermeasures do we have in the event that Shibuya is the target of bioterrorism? The governor was visibly disconcerted. If this does turn out to be a bioterrorist attack, we will establish emergency shelters with a large-scale quarantine station at Yoyogi Park. However, there are still many details that remain unknown. The politician was clearly struggling to maintain his composure. Can you comment on the rumors we're hearing that Shibuya might be blockaded off? Don't be ridiculous, the governor barked. What outlet are you with? What outlet are you with? Are you trying to start a panic when we don't even know all the details? Besides, it wouldn't even be possible to blockade the whole Shibuya. The press conference continued, the governor and the reporters locked in a belligerent back and forth. Kano left the electronics store and headed for the cafe where Rumi and Shizuo were waiting. He had to tell them both to get far away from Shibuya. The Café Lautrec seemed quiet when Kano arrived. Shizuo was sitting alone. Kano scanned the establishment but didn't see Rumi anywhere. One of the staff greeted him. Welcome, just one, sir? No, I'm meeting someone actually. Of course, sir. The hostess smiled and then went on her way. Shizuo was glaring at him. Kano walked over to him and bowed deeply. It's a pleasure to meet you, sir. I'm Shinya Kano. You look even more like a knuckle dragger than I thought. Shizuo maintained his appraising stare. Rumi had something she needed to do, so she stepped away for a while, he said after a long moment. I don't remember what voice I had for this guy. Kano sat down across from him. There was a laptop computer open on the table. Right now the laptop is in sleep mode, and there's nothing on the monitor, but just before Kano came in, Shizuo was browsing an internet forum. He takes his user handle from a nickname for the apples he grows on his own farm, which are pretty little things, and nearly as sweet as honey. Aww. We know that Shizuo is a big fan of Ayakamiki. The waitress came by to take Kano's order, so he asked for an iced coffee. What are you using the computer for? Kano asked. I'm on the internet. Shizuo's voice was low and gruff. This cafe has an internet connection? May as well start with a little small talk. So what? Again, Shizuo glared at Kano. The words wouldn't come. No, actually, this is no time to be making idle chit-chat. If they got infected with the virus, Rumi and Shizuo might die. Look. Please, you need to leave Shibuya right away. Shizuo's face contorted with confusion. What are you talking about? Why? Kano wasn't sure if he should tell the truth or not. He was strictly prohibited from discussing a case with anyone outside the department. As a former policeman himself, Shizuo ought to understand full well the secrecy and investigation required. But it wasn't like he'd just up and leave town without a good reason. Please, listen, Kano said. Kano seems like he would obey the rules for now. It's very important that you go, though. I'm not at liberty to tell you why. Even if this was Rumi's father, Kano couldn't bring himself to leak secret information. His mind spun with regret. Well, I don't need your say-so, Shizuo huffed. I'm sick of this town anyway. Kano was a bit relieved to hear that. Does this have something to do with the case you're working? Huh? You telling me to leave Shibuya, does that have something to do with your case? Yes, Kano admitted. So why don't you run off with Rumi then? Shizuo's tone was frank. Well, I mean, when Kano didn't have an answer handy, Shizuo let out a single heavy sigh. Is your work important to you? He asked. Kano hesitated. Is it more important than Rumi? Well... Again, Shizuo cut Kano off as he waffled over how to answer. Me, I used to put my work before my family. There were no questions in my mind that combating society's ills and solving cases were worth any price. And because of that, I did some pretty reckless things. Almost wound up dead more than once. Shizuo paused, a forlorn look in his eyes. My wife did nothing but worry about me. So much that I didn't even realize when she'd worried herself sick. I was so caught up in my work that I wasn't even there for her when she finally passed away. It was also very absurd of me. The waitress came by and set Kano's iced coffee on the table. It sat there, untouched, until Shizuo looked at it pointedly. With a tiny nod, Kano brought the cup to his lips. The bittersweet liquid was a balm to his parched throat. I told Rumi the same story, Shizuo continued. But I didn't tell her how absurd it was. I told her that her father only did what he had to do. He took a sip from his glass of water. Rumi, she's very much like her mother used to be. Their personalities are almost identical. And I don't want her to suffer the same way my wife did. Shizuo's fist clenched in his lap. What was it that made you become a detective in the first place? He asked. Well, at first I got the job because I thought it would make Rumi happy. And then I guess also because I thought it'd make you like me, sir. It was the truth, but Shizuo simply chuckled. If your goal is to get me to like you, you may as well give up now. I'm sorry, sir, Kano said. I can't do that. Are you this stubborn around Rumi? Shizuo grumbled. I love your daughter, sir. I want to keep her safe, to make her happy. And why is that? Whenever I think about her, I just feel so amazing. I'm sure that you or anyone can empathize with that. Everyone has someone they want to protect, who makes them feel that good. It's an admirable thing wanting to be a detective and protect the happiness of the people. But that doesn't mean you need to ignore your own happiness in the process. What you say may be true, sir. Earlier today, my partner was stabbed. And today, his wife's birthday. Shizuo arched his brow. Is he going to make it? We're not sure yet. Last I knew, he was in critical condition. This is why I keep saying that the life of a detective is... Shizuo's words trailed off into a lamenting murmur. Even so, Kano was unmoved. Dictum number 1. Never lose sight of what you're supposed to protect. Ever. What's that? Something a senior detective I admire very much said. It's the fundamental guiding principle I've stuck to as a detective. But I was wrong about the real meaning behind it. My partner was stabbed. There are people I want to rescue. So much has happened, and now I finally understand what those words mean. When you see someone in trouble, you help them. That's not something a good detective does. That's something a good person does. Kano took a good long look at Shizuo's face. He had surprised himself, finding the words to speak his feelings so clearly, and he wondered what effect it had on the older man. I'm sure that from your perspective as my future father-in-law, my being a detective means that I'm putting my life on the line. But that's not entirely true. I can only be myself. This is the kind of person I am. I care about helping people. Even if I were a baker or a brewer or a bookseller, I'd still act the same way. You're being ridiculous. A baker and a detective don't assume anywhere near the same risks. Do not assume that the baker is safe. Have you seen what they call ovens? Terrifying creatures. I suppose that's true. Kano fussed of his hair sheepishly. Shizuo grumbled. Kano would find a way. I think I see what kind of man you are now. He sounded oddly defeated. Which is why now is no time to just futz around. Kano sat up straighter at Shizuo's weighty tone. A detective needs more than just passion. A detective can't solve all his problems with sheer determination alone. But at the same time, he needs more than just the ability to coldly assess the situation. He needs the conviction to stick to a case when it might otherwise seem prudent to give up. I know, right? It's scary shit. There was something new in Shizuo's expression now, and a gleam in his eyes that hadn't been there before. Kano almost felt like he was being sermonized to by a senior officer. You got that? You need a cool mind, but a fiery spirit. A detective without both of those is worth nothing. Do you mind if I write that down in my notebook here? You're going straight into my dictum. Do not put me in your dictum. Look, Shizuo said, sounding suddenly embarrassed. Aren't you in a hurry? Don't you have to get back to your case? Yes, and sir, please, I need you and your daughter to leave Shibuya right away. Yeah, I hear ya. Kano conjured up Rumi's face in his mind. There was a chance he might never see her again. He forced the thought away as best he could. By the way, if I may ask, Shizuo said, what was it about Rumi that made you fall in love with her? What? Where's this coming from all of a sudden? Was it her looks? No, it wasn't just that. Kano found himself tongue-tied again. I mean, she is pretty cute. Even if this is my own daughter I'm talking about. Shizuo shocked him by grinning from ear to ear. Well, yes, she sure is, Kano replied. But it's more than just that. She's also very sweet and kind-hearted. She is, isn't she? Yeah, she really is. For the first time, Kano and Shizuo smiled at one another. You're a man who lets his emotions show on his face, Shizuo said. And for a detective, that's not so bad. Thank you, sir, Kano said. He bowed to Shizuo as he stood up from his seat. Never lose sight of what you're supposed to protect, huh? Never lose sight of what you're supposed to protect, huh? I like that. Wise words indeed. Kano turned to look back and then bowed deeply to Shizuo one last time. The ability to coldly assess a situation. Kano knew what he needed to do. There was one thing that was nagging him. No matter how hard he thought about it, it still didn't add up. Why would Tatsuno let Al Karawan go free? He needed to get back to the precinct and get the truth from Al Karawan firsthand. As he walked along, he considered what he did know about the facts of the case. Just what sort of plan had Alphard put into motion here? It seemed that Tanaka and Osawa held the keys to understanding it. There had been relay handoffs of the phony attaché case. A relay that Tanaka had been complicit in. Then there was Hitomi missing, carrying the antiviral. Osawa had confirmed that himself. We have our jump point for Osawa, but let's finish this one out. Kano was starting to form a vague picture of what Alphard was up to. If the mastermind's goal was to acquire the antiviral, then obtaining the cooperation of Osawa and Tanaka was vital to that plan. After all, their fingerprint verification was required to physically access the drug. In order to overcome that hurdle, Alphard had presumably managed to win over Tanaka somehow, and had the kidnapped Maria Osawa, to provide leverage against her father. No doubt that was how they'd gotten Hitomi to take the antiviral with her, the Hachiko. While the police were distracted by following the attaché case, Alphard would then take the antiviral from Hitomi. That was the general plan as far as Kano could surmise. Just then, a call from Kuze came in over the wireless. "We've identified the body inside the blown-up minivan." Kano's hand tingled as it gripped the wireless. "Mamoru Tanaka, male, 40 years old. I called it. I knew it was Tanaka. An employee of Okoshi Pharmaceutical. Positive ID was obtained from the subject's personal belongings." "What?" Kano gasped. If Tanaka was dead, it would now be almost impossible to access the antiviral drug in the laboratory. At this point, the only antiviral they had any chance of obtaining was whatever Hitomi was carrying. Kano thought back to what Stanley had said earlier. Even if we get Maria to safety, the mastermind is in possession of the UA virus. If they want to, they can unleash a bioterrorism attack on Shibuya at any time. To put it bluntly, the lives of every man, woman, and child in the city are in their hands. No. A chill ran down Kano's spine. If someone did release the UA virus, there would be no way to stop it from spreading. If Alphard really was planning a bioterror attack, Shibuya would well and truly become a city of the dead. He couldn't help but feel that the whole department was playing right into Alphard's hands. Alphard is still a weird name for me. Kano staggered, physically stricken by the realization of just how terrifying a foe they were up against. To be continued. Holy shit, that was a long one. It was very good. Look at all these choices we have, but it seems like we took the correct choices. I won't worry about them for now. I'm more interested in this jump. Not just with Kuze, but also with Stanley, and also just the development of what is actually happening, you know? Yeah, Shizuo, Kuze, and Stanley. A lot of conversations there. To Osawa we go. Before the news was shared with the Osawas, the members of the investigation team quietly briefed Detective Kajiwara. Osawa and I sat on the sofa on the far side of the room, watching. They could see Kajiwara go pale. He wiped the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief many times. Bad news, Osawa thought. Mr. Osawa, ma'am. Kajiwara shuffled his way over to them at last. We've just gotten word from headquarters. Right now the task force is in an uproar after a change in direction from the higher-ups. The detectives who are on the scene have been ordered to discontinue the kidnapping investigation. This is probably a jump to Kano. Interesting. He hesitated ominously. Osawa braced himself. Please, let's hear it. It would seem that your daughter, Maria, is safe. What? Osawa felt an unexpected surge of relief. You mean it? The case has been solved? Added I. For a moment they almost sounded like a happily married couple. I love to zoom in to Kajiwara's ass. It was only the stern look of Kajiwara's face that gave them pause. However, as of yet, we do not have her in custody. I'm not sure I understand, Osawa said. You know she's alive, but you don't have her. How? Deep furrows appeared in Kajiwara's forehead. I'm sorry, sir. The information we've received from up top is complicated. We've confirmed that she was able to escape confinement. It's just... The detective gave every appearance of holding something back. If there's something you need to tell us, then just say it, Osawa told him. It would seem that Maria has been infected with a virus. Infected? Osawa felt as if a taloned claw had just clutched his heart. It's not one I've heard of before, but apparently it's called the UA virus. Excellent camera cuts. Osawa's vision went dark. He felt as if he'd plunged into a black void of despair. Darling, I asked raspily. She didn't need to put her fears into words. Osawa felt them just as plainly in his own gut. You're an expert on virology, aren't you, Mr. Osawa? Kajiwara said. Are you familiar with this UA virus? Osawa held up a hand to forestall further questions. There was no time for that. How many hours ago was she infected? He demanded. I wasn't told that much. Is that important to know, sir? Depending on when Maria was infected, we may or may not still be... Osawa trailed off abruptly as the reality of the situation struck home. This wasn't the same as when Hitomi had been infected. Right now, there was no way of getting Tanaka's cooperation, which meant there was no way of accessing the antiviral storage. In other words, getting the cure to Maria would be impossible. Osawa's head swam. Detective Kajiwara, I beg of you. Your people need to catch Tanaka as soon as possible. I can't share the details, but if you don't, something terrible is going to happen. Just then, Kajiwara's cell phone rang. He picked up quickly. What did you say? The detective's shouts shattered the anxious silence that had fallen. I shuddered visibly at the outburst. Kajiwara nodded sharply, still listening. More creases formed in his forehead. Understood. I'll let them know. He hung up. All eyes were on him. That was headquarters. Osawa swallowed the lump in his throat. He could feel himself quaking all over. A minivan we believe belonged to the syndicate exploded near Jinan, in Shibuya. A body was found amongst the burning wreckage of the vehicle. Who was it? Osawa interjected. Tell me. Please don't let it be Maria. Please don't let it be Hitomi. Kajiwara took a breath before speaking. We've conclusively identified the remains as Mr. Tanaka's. No! The cry was visceral, almost bird-like. Osawa looked around in surprise. It was I. It's not true. You're lying. Her shrill screams reverberated through the room. Osawa felt like he wanted to scream too. With Tanaka dead, there's no way to get to the antiviral. Which meant that Maria was going to die. Well, I mean, we have an assumption that Tanaka and I were a thing before I had to marry Osawa. Obviously, we never got the truth because the person who was going to find out for that was Minorikawa. But her screaming is pretty much a dead giveaway that she cared about Tanaka. Hence the gift of the necktie. As for how much she does know about Osawa's work, we don't quite know, but we know that she has a thing with Tanaka. So it's possible Tanaka told her things, and that she is the daughter of the owner of the company. So it's possible that he told her things. I'm just wondering if this is because she knows about the antiviral, or 100% confirmation that there's something Tanaka XI thing. I know, it's probably Endos, huh? Which meant that Maria was going to die. But the thing is, once I hit this to be continued screen, we're gonna get hit with the next episode flashbang. This ain't the old SOS anymore. I am going to stop you. Oh, how touching. What do you mean you'll kill me? In order to minimize the spread of the virus, whoa, that was a heavy block. Even though we had gotten most characters to be continued, well, we got 2 characters to be continued like last week. That still took a good long chunk of change. It involved going back to a lot of characters that were all intertwined. Yeah, I'm gonna assume that that's gonna be the case from now on. Look at Minorikawa. Poor guy. I do like that they update these. Like, not only was Tama updated to Maria, but when she changed clothes, out here she also bleh. She was also updated when she changed clothes in the story. And now we have Minorikawa covered in ash. Boy, this is a hard one to see who we start with. I'm gonna do... We haven't seen Achi much today. Achi's job was kind of done, and all he had to do was look at computer screens. So let us check out Achi. Achi could hear ambulance and police sirens wailing on the main road. He looked down at Hitomi, slumped on a park bench beside him. "You sure you're not hurt?" he asked quietly, offering her a bottle of water. "I'm okay." Hitomi took a sip from the bottle. Damn, she shook that off real good. "Thanks. I think I managed to calm down some." Some of the color had finally returned to her face. So, Achi began hesitantly, inside that minivan. Maria wasn't in there. There was relief in her voice, but also a note of pathos. "I got a look in through the windshield. There was a man laid out in the back seat, but nobody else." The dark cloud lifted from Achi's face. "So it wasn't your sister?" "No. I didn't see his face. Just that he was wearing a business suit." Achi felt the tension ebbing from his body. "That's good then. That it wasn't her. I'd have been worried." It was a shame about the poor devil who had been killed, though. Who was it? And why had he been there? So I guess now we're out of leads. Oh, Hitomi said that. Hitomi murmured. She hung her head. Hmm? I had a feeling that that Tanaka had a bag on his head or something. At least in the intro video. I think you get to see like an eye through like a cutout or something when he goes to check the phone. That's what I would assume. That's what I remember, but it's been a while since I've seen the intro video. We could try the surveillance center again for now, Achi said. It'll probably give us better odds of finding your sister than just walking around. I guess you're right. Shall we then? Yeah, the intro video takes place with the explosion, and we see the explosion from the first part, the point of view of the person in the car, who we assume is Tanaka. It could also not be Tanaka. It could just be his ID was there at the scene. But for now, we're gonna just assume that it's Tanaka. The ringtone makes sense that he would have Hitomi's ringtone for her calling him to be the song, though. Hold on. Achi had a sudden flash of inspiration. My house is a lot closer from here. Maybe I should ask my dad if we can check the cameras from home. You can do that? We have the same system at our house. I'm sure my dad will let us use them. I'm curious what the SOS and what the SOS have to do with any of this. The two got up and headed for Endo Electronics. Yeah, that's why I say, as far as the story is concerned, that it is apparent that he died and he was identified by his ID. You know, anything can happen. The two got up and headed for Endo Electronics. Oh, but now you're back on home turf. You're SOS turf now. Achi decided to let his father know they were coming. He turned on his phone as they walked along. He'd had it off for a while, so he checked his voicemail. There was one message. Wondering who might have called, he played it back. Is this Achi Endo's personal cell phone? This is Dr. Saki from Shibuya Central Hospital. Or Seiki. Seiichi Seiki, heart specialist and Suzune's attending physician. A preeminent surgeon who has successfully performed the Batista procedure, wherein the left ventricle is reconstructed after a third of it has been removed. Achi's expression stiffened. He pressed the phone closer to his ear. There's been a sudden change in Suzune's condition. I tried calling your home as well, but got no answer. Achi felt the edges of his vision growing dim. As her brother, it would be good if you can't. Would be good if you can come to the hospital as soon as possible. It's Achi? Hitomi's voice was full of concern. Sorry, I just gotta make a call here. Fingers trembling, Achi dialed his house. The phone rang several times before switching over to the answering machine. Damn it. Where the hell are you, Dad? What's wrong? Hitomi asked. It's Suzune. It sounds like things have gotten pretty bad. Well then, we need to get to the hospital right away, Hitomi said. She sounded as anxious as Achi was. We can't go yet. Achi shook his head quietly. First we have to save your sister. Hitomi bristled angrily at that. What are you talking about? She grabbed Achi by the arm and shook him. Right now, you need to be thinking about your sister. I can't. I made a promise to Suzune. I promised to help people and see things through to the end. when something important is on the line. He struggled to get the words out. If I break that promise, then I really am no good to her. But Hitomi didn't look like she was going to back down. Oi, get back here! A threatening shout rung out from nearby. Achi looked around, startled, and saw a boy about high school age bolting out from behind a building on a side street. Several slightly older young men were hot on his heels. Achi knew their faces all too well. They were all members of SOS. They caught their quarry just before he could make it out onto the main road. Yeah, gotcha, newbie. So the kid they were after must have been a member too. Let me go. Oh, we'll let you go, alright. After you pay up. One of the young men snatched the boy by the collar and shoved him against the wall of a nearby building. Ow! The boy's face scrunched up. Hello, Arc Prime. We've had a lot happen. What the majority thing happening was that a blue minivan exploded. The plot that Maria has been infected and is going around Shibuya, you know, just let free in Shibuya just to infect everyone. Sasayama died, maybe? He said he's in critical condition in the hospital. We think Mr. Toyama's also died, which is the boss of Minorikawa. God, a lot happened. There's an assassin, and she helped get Hitomi out of the way, and what? It's a wild one. I don't know when the last caught up with us. Ow, the boy's face scrunched up. What are you talking about? Playing dumb, huh? Interjected one of the onlookers. We told you that members all have to pay monthly dues, yeah? The privilege of getting to call yourself SOS. Don't come free after all. Achi felt his blood boil. SOS was trying to pull a shakedown on this new kid under the guise of calling it dues. Oh yeah, and Tanaka might also be dead. Who Tanaka, as far as the police were concerned, was like the mastermind of the kidnapping. But we know that isn't true. That the true mastermind has to be this guy named Alphard. Oh, sorry, I needed some water. Yeah, Tanaka holds half of the password, or half of the fingerprint recognition needed to get the antiviral. Slang for extortion, a full-fledged crime. Naturally, the direct shakedown, give me all your money, punk, is quite unpleasant, but more roundabout ways of being shaken down can still leave a bad taste in one's mouth. Someone who is surrounded on the street by 8 people in pompadours, who said, begging your pardon, but could you please hand over your money, might suffer no physical harm, but would still be the victim of a shakedown. Watch out for Mr. Shakedown. It would have been unthinkable for them to do something like this back when Achi was running the show. Hey, he barked, let the kid go. He marched towards the group. Say what now? They turned to look, their faces immediately going pale. Oh, hey Achi. Let him go. Achi focused his glare on the fellow holding the kid until he released his grip. You guys always going around doing stuff like this? None of the gang members answered. They merely turned their gazes glumly to the ground. Hey, Achi turned to the younger boy. Since when have they been doing this? But of course he realized there was no way a newbie would be able to tell him. Never mind, you could go. Achi gestured towards the main road. The boy was quick to run off. Achi waited until the boy was gone before turning back to the others. The guy on the right, he looks a lot older and he just has like a young boy's haircut. Just to fit in. Does Susumu know you're going around collecting dues like this? He asked. Man, we don't gotta tell you that, one of them mothered. Not since you deserted. What'd you just say? Achi leaned in close, getting right in the guy's face. He was met with a defiant sneer. This ain't the old SOS anymore. Not the old SOS. Achi thought back to the other gang member he'd run into earlier, with the malicious gleam in his eye. That guy. Pretty sure he said his name was Kiryu. Back when Achi had been with SOS, he never let a guy like that get away with acting all high and mighty. Suddenly Achi heard a voice from behind him. Well, well, if it ain't our legendary founder. An instant later, he took a hard blow to the side of the head. This is a good face. I was just looking for some small fry, but looks like I landed me a big one. Achi's head swam, his vision fading in and out. Before he had a chance to recover, something smashed into his knee. Ow. He lay crumpled on the ground, unable to retaliate as kicks and punches rained down on him. Even after Achi could no longer move, the beating didn't stop. His ruptured eardrums could barely make out the sound of Atomi screaming. You love to just like start a story straight into a bad end. Atomi, run. With his final plea silenced before it reached his lips, Achi felt his consciousness battered away. All he did was get bad news about his sister. Kiryu's ambush. Kiryu turned up out of nowhere and gave Achi a beatdown with a piece of timber. But just before he attacked Achi, Kiryu had run into someone else. That person said something that changed what Kiryu did. The individual in question needs to say something different to ensure Kiryu doesn't go to Dogenzaka while Achi and Hitomi are there. Well, instant bad end. Achi, you died. You know, like, so Maria had an ending that was like a good ending. And I think Kano also had a good ending where he got to be a farmer. I guess Osawa hasn't had anything like that. Osawa just has bad ends where he goes insane. Achi gets murdered a lot. Like, compared to everyone else? Yeah, but that's not like murder. That's just like a crazy happenstance, right? It was a good ending. Don't get me wrong. I love that ending. I'm so glad we hit that ending. But like, in terms of just like dying, I think Achi's like in the lead for just straight up getting killed. I kind of want to check on Minorikawa. Want to see how he's doing. He also is looking for SOS members. I almost said SOS Brigade because my brain... Guys, Haruhi is in like the conversation again. It's really fucking weird. There's both like the new book that's gonna come out, which has made me look up the synopsises for the older books because I kind of forget things. And then that's made me realize I need to read all the books again, which they're not long reads. But there are like 10 of them, right? So there's a new book coming out for Haruhi, but then also people are using Haruhi as some weird like fucking gatekeeping, like, oh, you don't recognize Haruhi, you're not an anime fan, like bullshit that's happening. Anyway, chat, I love Haruhi. If you ask me to show you my Haruhi collection sometime. Minorikawa needed to get back to the editing office right away. But despite the urgency, he barely stumbled along. It's like he got blown up. He was swaying on his feet, only half aware where he was going. No, this is all some sick joke. He just couldn't accept that Toyama was dead. He let out a lifeless sigh. A cynical smile crept onto his face. The man always did insist on having his own way. But killing himself? Back when he was still a novice reporter, Minorikawa had written a piece about middle school girl who'd committed suicide. The school had made a statement denying that bullying had been a factor. And so most of the media had reported that she had suffered a nervous breakdown over entrance exams. A period of mental illness manifesting as panic disorder, stress-induced anxiety, or the like. The term is commonly used to refer to serious health issues such as schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, manic depression, as well as the buildup of more minor stresses as part of everyday life. Because it is so broadly and vaguely defined, it is generally avoided in psychiatric contexts. But something about the case had kept nagging at him. Had her death really been a suicide? The more people he interviewed about the incident, the more his doubts grew. The city news editor, however, would not allow him to conduct a follow-up investigation. And the reason why was simple. This was the sort of thing that happened every day. They couldn't waste time on a case that was already on the books. It was more important for a reporter to find news stories than to squander time engrossed in a case that was old news. Minorikawa understood the editor's decision well enough, but that didn't mean he had to like it. He'd been sulking up on the roof, slowly nursing a cigarette, when the paper's local news copy editor, Toyama, happened to drop by. At a newspaper, an employee who evaluates the quality and suitability of reporters' copy and coverage. Effectively the boss of a group of reporters. However, the copy editor typically works under a section editor who has the final say about what makes the page. A middle management position caught between upstart reporters and an angry section chief. Did they say no to the follow-up interviews? Toyama asked. About that girl's suicide. The name of the girl who killed herself was Chiharu Fuyutsuki. After reading her diary, Minorikawa became convinced it wasn't an ordinary suicide. 6 years from now, Minorikawa will run into a certain teacher, and the investigation into the student's death will be reopened. But that's another story for another time. Huh. Yeah. Minorikawa expelled a plume of his smoke, along with his sigh. Nothing tasted quite as bad as a cigarette when he was down in the dumps. So what are you going to do? I'm not going to do anything, Minorikawa said. Editor told me no. Oh, editor said not to. You sound like a child. The rebuff made Minorikawa's temper flare. There are other interviews to do. I want to follow up on this, but there isn't any time. Hell yeah! You dumbass. I really like when Minorikawa gets his ass beat. Toyama hauled off and hit him right across the face. What happened to I write what I feel in my heart? That's the one thing I refuse to back down on. What happened to the guy who used to bitch at me like that? Toyama's words hit their mark with painful precision. The interviews aren't over until you have what you need. No, you refuse to let them be over. You go after the truth, no matter what anyone tells you. Isn't that what being a journalist is all about? Minorikawa scowled in chagrin. The man was exactly right. Until you have what you need. Those words had stuck with Minorikawa ever since. In fact, he quit the paper to become a freelancer because he couldn't do his job the way he wanted while trapped in that hierarchy. It's so weird that we see Toyama being like a competent person and also just like a real inspiration to Minorikawa. Now he wondered, what if Toyama hadn't killed himself, but had instead been the victim of a terrorist attack? But after considering the idea for a moment, he thought bitterly, so what? The reasons and the details hardly mattered at this point. What mattered was that Toyama was dead. Minorikawa sat down listlessly and stared up at the sky. The blank swath of blue made him feel all the more worn out. Just what had all of the days running around been for? He felt so empty, so hollowed out by loss. All his motivation had drained away. He had no idea what he should do next. Hey, Minoru Minorikawa, what should you do? He tried to listen to his inner voice. I think he forgot his passion. He needs to get that back. Or do we tell him to stand up? Right now you just need to forge ahead. I like the passion one. You've forgotten your passion. You need to get that back. Yeah, that was his only option, really. He needed to turn back the clock, to reclaim the fire that used to burn inside him. And he knew just how to do that. Before he could, however, a young man stumbled across his path, taking a nasty fall on the pavement. Ow, damn, that hurts. The youngster scrambled back to his feet and turned to Minorikawa with a snarl. We're to believe that this guy just kind of fell. What are you looking at, pal? The young man clutched a piece of timber like a club. There was a nasty gleam in his eyes. I'm not looking at anything, Minorikawa sighed. I just happen to be looking in your direction. Shut your yap. Apologize, bitch. Now. The punk raised his cudgel. What for? You tricked me, man. Ain't you gonna apologize for that? The kid had stumbled all his own, but was probably too embarrassed to admit it. Guess he's gotta vent his anger at someone. Listen, kid, Minorikawa said, it's not my fault you're such a glutton. You guys all say that Minorikawa's kind of an asshole, but I kind of love that he just says shit. Like, no filter, no, like, hesitation. He's just like, yeah, this guy would probably beat the shit out of me with this 2x4, but I'm gonna call him a klutz anyway. You know, like the pedal in a car that's got a manual transmission. Oh, that's a clutch. Did Achi write this one? Okay, so then, like, lumps of earth or clay? Those are clods, you say? Right, so then we're talking about a sort of social get-together for coffee and conversation, huh? Ah, right, that's a clash. Is it when you try to fix something using stuff that isn't really meant for that purpose? That's a kludge. Okay. I do like that this seems to be written by Achi. The hell you just say to me? You got a death wish, pal? With a murderous glare, the punk advanced on him, brandishing his weapon. Hey, Minorikawa said. Is it fun hitting people with that thing? Alright, I'm sorry. Bring it on. I feel like the top one might be the most Minorikawa. But I feel like this one might get Achi killed. But let's find out. Is it fun hitting people with that thing? The corner of the punk's mouth curled up. Ah, yeah, real fun. Only a dumbass beats people with their bare hands. You just wind up hurting your fists. If you're gonna enjoy some violence, you gotta have yourself a weapon. Ah, I see. In that case, maybe give it a rest with that stick, yeah? Huh? What for? The punk scowled in irritation. Don't get me wrong, Minorikawa said. I'm just saying there have to be better weapons than that. Something that could take a man down in a single blow. Minorikawa is setting up Achi to die. The kid stopped to consider Minorikawa's words for a moment. I get you. Yeah, you might be right about that. And I think I have just the thing. May as well go with my usual. Though it did say that Achi got attacked by a piece of timber. He tossed away the piece of wood on the side of the road. So maybe in a way this is actually stopping that. And that this guy is now going to go find a weapon. With which to kill Achi later in the story with. Don't you go anywhere till I get back. Got it? Yeah, sure thing. Minorikawa watched as the punk headed back the way he'd come. Man, he murmured, what a dumbass. Looking around, he spotted a taxi parked close by. Oh, is our man? It's our man! It was Kimazuka. Do you need a ride, sir? Kimazuka asked. All politeness as he opened the back door. If you're heading to that publishing office again, I can get you there in 10 minutes. Kimazuka's driving was as smooth as always. He wove his way skillfully through a series of back streets. There was some big explosion earlier, he explained. The main roads are all gridlocked. Yeah, Minorikawa muttered. I was there when it happened. Oh wow, really? I'm glad to see you're not hurt then. Still, what a terrible thing, that minivan. I hear someone was inside when it exploded. I'm not sure if you were aware. Yeah, I'm aware. Oh, nothing gets past a reporter like you, I see. Kimazuka flashed Minorikawa an approving smile through the rearview mirror. How much have you heard then? Rumor has it that the person who died was a middle-aged man. Oh, huh. Yeah, we taxi drivers tend to hear quite a bit ourselves. Kimazuka chuckled, but Minorikawa just cast his eyes down forlornly. You look tired, sir. Yeah, I guess so. His reply was barely audible. Suddenly, someone rushed down to the street right in front of the cab. Another way for us to kill Achi. Look out! Did I say that it seems like Achi just has the worst luck for these kind of things? There was a heavy thunk as the taxi crashed into the pedestrian. Screeching to a halt, Kimazuka and Minorikawa jumped out of the vehicle to find a young man splayed out on the street. Hey, the driver called. You all right? The fallen pedestrian was practically still a kid, and he wasn't moving. Kimazuka hunkered down and jostled his shoulder, then his expression stiffened in alarm. Minorikawa checked the young man's pulse, but couldn't detect any heartbeat. Oh no, Kimazuka said. This is... Tears began to well up in his eyes. Minorikawa turned to him in surprise. You knew him? I did. Kimazuka cradled the young man in his arms. Man, even Kimazuka knows Achi. I'm sorry, but you'll have to find yourself another taxi, he said. I'm going to turn myself into the police. Looking down at the boy's unmoving form, Minorikawa felt a pang of guilt. No, he said. I'm the one who's been asking you to drive around so recklessly all day. This one's on me, too. But... I'll go with you to the cops. The two men decided to head to the station together to surrender themselves. There probably wouldn't be time to work on writing articles while they were being interrogated. But that was just how it'd have to be. I think we saw the King Kong company when we got like the zoom in on Kimazuka's ID. That was just how it'd have to be. That was the right thing to do. Minorikawa just had to keep telling himself that, knowing that was the truth. Or maybe King Kong Company is somebody else? I don't know. Surrendered to the police. Minorikawa's day ended in disaster when the taxi he was riding in hit a young man, Achi, who ran out into the street. But why did the kid rush out into the intersection like that? The answer lies in Achi's story. I love that we played Achi's story, Achi died, so then we played Minorikawa's story to save Achi, only to then kill Achi. Achi just wants to die. He just refuses to live. Well, let's see if we can take care of that. How you doing, Achi? Yeah, it seems like we probably saved you from, you know, getting killed the other way. Looks like you might have a bad end, though. Alright, so Achi's thinking back about Kiryu. That guy, pretty sure he said his name was Kiryu. Back when Achi had been with SOS, he'd never let a guy like that get away acting all high and mighty. Now it seemed like all these young fellows were ready to follow suit, eager to take him down a peg. All these young fellows. I liked when they were using the word toughs. All these toughs. Your old news, pal. Ain't your business to tell us how to do things? Achi felt a confusing flood of anger and sadness that he couldn't quite control. I'm not messing around here, you guys. He grabbed the nearest punk by the collar and hefted him up in the air. Then someone shouted from behind him. Hey, what are you doing? Achi put the guy down and turned around to see Susumu standing there. There's the boss, man. Mind telling me what's going on here, Achi? Susumu flashed his underlings a sharp glare. They immediately took to their heels. Achi wasn't about to just let them go. He raced after them. That sounds like a good way to get hit by a taxi, Achi. Should I see what it looks like from Achi's point of view? Achi wasn't about to just let them go. I would have never picked this anyway, because it doesn't seem like Achi's MO. He raced after them. Hey, get back here. The gang members sprinted away at full speed. They scattered in different directions to throw him off, but Achi wasn't going to let them get away that easily. He kept after the ringleaders as they headed towards the non-payday area, darting down a narrow side street. He could see an intersection up ahead. Achi sped after them, making sure not to take his eyes off of them for a second. Oh no! also a wonderful picture. Uh-oh. With his attention fixed on the fleeing troublemakers, Achi never saw the car speeding directly at him. By the time he registered the impact against the side, he was sailing through the air. He crashed to the pavement, skewed to a stop, and laid there struggling to breathe. As he watched two men get out of the taxi that had hit him, Achi thought to himself, I'm gonna die here. Minorikawa. He'd been too careless. It was too late to walk that back. He could hear the sound of his own heart beating all too slowly. And then, he heard it stop. Hit by a taxi. I don't think I need the hint for that one. Actually, I should read it because it's fun to read those hints. Some of them are pretty funny. In his headlong pursuit of some SOS troublemakers, Achi ran right in front of a speeding taxi. Sure, as the gang's former leader, he can't just stand idly by and let them be a menace, but still, maybe it'd make more sense to talk to their current leader? Yeah, I mean, I would have never picked that anyway. But now that I know that kills him, it's really funny. Just what the hell was going on with SOS? Achi needed to talk to Susumu. I asked what was going on here. There was a threatening note in Susumu's voice. That's what I want to know. What the hell's happened to SOS, man? Susumu's face twisted with displeasure. You're an outsider now. That's none of your business. I don't give a damn if it's my business or not. When I left you in charge of SOS, You shut your damn mouth, Susumu roared. Yeah, that's right, you left me in charge. Don't you dare give me any lip about how I run things. His sudden ferocity left Achi at a loss for words. You're not the one busting your ass out here. I am. Susumu stalked toward Achi, his face red with emotion. I've had to work so hard to keep things going with you gone. Do you have any idea what it's been like? Do you know what I've had to put myself through to keep SOS together? There was nothing Achi could say to that. He just kept his mouth shut and let Susumu talk. You were gone. I thought maybe I could do things like you did. All at once, Susumu seemed to deflate a little. He hung his head, hiding his face. And if I couldn't be like you, then... Hey man, I get it. I'm sorry. But Susumu kept his face averted. Please, he muttered. Stay out of our business. Then he turned on his heel and headed off without looking back. Achi watched him leave, feeling a painful sting. Hitomi's just like, what was that all about? Achi, Hitomi asked after Susumu was gone. Are you sure you're okay with leaving things like this? Achi shrugged heavily. Susumu said he's doing what he can. It's not my place to butt in. He turned his back on Hitomi. He still needed a moment. Achi, you're being unreasonable. About what? He felt like he'd been wounded to his very core, and he wasn't sure what to do about it. You want to help people who are in trouble, right? Hitomi asked quietly. Yeah, I guess. Achi's voice was glum. Well, I'm in a whole lot of trouble right now. Yeah, I know that. No, Achi, you don't. Hitomi's tone was clipped and firm. Please, go to your sister. What are you talking about? That doesn't matter now. Yes, it does. Hitomi's shout stopped him in his tracks. Achi, right now the thing I'm having the most trouble with is that you won't go to the hospital. Don't you get it? How can I possibly be happy with you helping me if you have to sacrifice your own sister to do it? Achi couldn't answer that, and then he knew it. He knew it. Please, go to the hospital. I'm asking you to, and I'm definitely someone in trouble, so it doesn't count as breaking your promise, right? I appreciate that, Achi said softly. Let's head to the hospital. So yeah, how about we drop by the hospital for a bit? The emotions Achi had been trying to hide now came welling to the surface. Well, we'll go see Suzune, and after that we can go look for your sister. Would that be okay with you? That would be more than okay with me. And at long last, Hitomi smiled at him. Back in sync with each other, Achi and Hitomi headed to the hospital. Yay, Achi didn't get run over. I'm excited to see how Achi will die at the hospital. Shibuya Central Hospital was one of the foremost general hospitals in Japan, outfitted with top-notch medical facilities and staffed by highly skilled personnel. Individuals like Suzune with rare blood types were sent to the hospital from far and wide because of its cutting-edge hematology center. The hospital division that deals with blood. Its goal is to provide high-end care to patients with blood disorders, including blood screening, treatments, transfusions, the management and supply of blood products, and other related services. Achi asked Hitomi to stay in the waiting area while he headed into the hospital proper. From the visitor's entrance, he passed by the nurse's station, then entered the cardiovascular medicine section, and walked along a row of examination rooms. The cardiovascular system includes the heart, as well as various blood vessels that circulate blood throughout the body. Cardiovascular medicine deals with heart and blood issues such as angina, heart attacks, heart failure, irregular pulse, and the like. He walked by the first room as quietly as possible, catching sight of a mother and daughter sitting together in chairs in the hallway. The mother was crying softly. "Oh, Takia, he was only 15, she murmured under her breath. The name Takia didn't ring a bell. It was the only 15 that got a reaction out of Achi. Only 15. You couldn't imagine anything good coming after that. To be cruelly taken away when one was still so young. Achi could feel the woman's pain as deeply as if it were his own. When he reached Suzune's room, Dr. Saiki, the attending physician, explained her condition. The doctor did his best to keep his explanation simple, but Achi was too worked up to process much of what he said. Also, Achi's dumb. He did manage to wrap his head around a few things. At around 10 o'clock that morning, Suzune had had a seizure. For a while it had been touch and go, but finally her condition had stabilized. However, since she hadn't regained consciousness yet, she wasn't allowed any visitors. That was the gist, as far as Achi could tell. "What's your father doing today?" "He still hasn't come by," Dr. Saki said. Achi wasn't sure what to tell him. It was certainly odd. There's no way his father wouldn't have rushed right to the hospital if he'd heard Suzune had taken a turn for the worse. "I'll give you a call when she's woken up. For now, you can head on home for the day." "Alright. Please keep a close eye on her, Doc." Somberly, Achi went to find Hitomi in the waiting area. Outpatient reception had closed for the day, leaving the hospital quiet. His footsteps echoed softly in the corridors. Then, as he walked along, a peculiar sound drew his attention. It had come from over by the base of a nearby stairwell. Achi took a peek around the corner. The sight that greeted him nearly made him gasp aloud. "Well, we know Kanan's okay." In the dim light up ahead, he saw Kanan, and she had some white guy pressed against the wall, a knife to his throat. Achi quickly yanked his head back out of view. Could it be? Was this the man Kanan said she was after? Achi had to resist the urge to go charging out there. Some amateur heading in half-cocked might well be more of a liability to Kanan than any sort of help. He heard her mutter something to the man in English. "We know nothing about Alphard's background, nationality, sex, age." Achi could just barely make out the words, but since it was all in English, he had no idea what they meant. But we do know that whoever they are, they have connections to Langley. Slang for the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, a CIA, headquartered in Langley, Virginia. Similar to referring to the Japanese government as Nagatacho, the CIA has other nicknames, including the company, the agency, the second government, the invisible government, and the coup makers. Oh, was it the realization about Langley? Achi peeked out again, very curiously, in time to see the man raise an eyebrow at Kanan's words. Oh, you were just having a thought that maybe Achi is that dumb? And then you're like, wait, no, he's Japanese. Interesting. That doesn't mean you need to threaten me at knife point, though. He flashed her a thin smile. It does, actually. Because I happen to know that you're a CIA agent. Technically known as officers, the CIA refers to its own spies as agents. Someone in charge of directing agents is called a case officer. Case officers are stationed at embassies across the world in the public guise of diplomats, soldiers, and the like. No sooner were Kanan's words out than the man grabbed her arm and tried to hurl her against the wall. Just before her head connected, though, she jackknifed her upper body forward, then planted both feet against the wall and kicked off with tremendous force. So I'm trying to vision this. Okay, so he grabs her arm and tries to hurl her against the wall. Before her head connects, though, she jackknifed her upper body forward, planted both feet against the wall, and kicked off with tremendous force. So I guess she did like a front flip, basically, into the wall. She used her momentum to launch herself forward, regaining her position with her knife against the man's throat. But during his brief opening, the man had managed to draw a gun from inside his jacket. Now the barrel was pressed right against Kanan's heart. Achi swallowed the lump in his throat. How about we call a truce? Kanan said softly. She withdrew her knife. Yeah, sounds like you and me are both after the same thing. The man likewise lowered his gun. With a faint smile, Kanan turned her back on him and vanished down the adjacent stairwell. Achi had no idea what had just happened. They'd stopped fighting though, so this guy probably wasn't Kanan's mastermind after all. If only Achi spoke a little English, he might have been able to follow their conversation. He found himself wishing he had taken school more seriously. When he looked again, he saw that the man too had disappeared. They were ghosts! No. Hitomi stood up from her chair as Achi hurried into the waiting area. How's Suzune? She asked. For now, she's not in any immediate danger, they said. That's good to hear. But more importantly, Kanan was here just now. What? Why? I'm not sure. I'm not smart enough to figure that out. Achi slumped his shoulders. Huh? What? I'm not quite sure what you mean. Exactly. I couldn't understand anything she was saying. Hell, he couldn't even figure out how to get through to Hitomi. May I have a moment? A voice spoke unexpectedly from behind Achi. His breath caught in his throat as he turned around. Standing there was the man Kanan had been struggling with. What's up? Achi asked. He tried to sound as nonchalant as possible. But the man wasn't looking at Achi. You're Hitomi Osawa, is that right? Ah, yes. Hey, Achi snapped, keep your distance. He stepped protectively in front of Hitomi. This guy, he's not what he looks like. Achi clenched his fist and adopted a defensive posture. Huh? Hitomi seemed panicked. Achi said, this might be the person Kanan was warning us about. I don't know who he is, but he's not our friend. I mean, each one is like Achi doesn't know any information. We know stuff about Stanley, but Achi doesn't. Even just this encounter right in front of him, he has no idea what it was about. I'm gonna be like, this might be the person Kanan was warning us about. Because that just sounds like Achi. This might be the person Kanan was warning us about. Oh, you know Kanan, do you? The man spoke without changing his facial expression. She let a few things slip herself. Look, who the hell are you? Achi demanded. The man calmly reached into his jacket pocket. Figuring he might be able to draw his gun? He might be about to draw his gun. Achi braced for action. My name's Jack Stanley. I'm a security assistant officer with the U.S. Embassy. I just realized that his ambassador signature just says John Hancock. Jack Stanley, Regional Security Officer, Security Assistant Officer, from May 25th, 2007 to December 31st, 2009. Oops, I didn't find out about ID cards. Diplomats are issued diplomatic passports and diplomatic ID cards by their home governments. Japan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs also issues its own form of diplomatic identification card. The CIA provides such identification to its operatives working overseas to help maintain their false identities. Embassy? What does someone with the U.S. Embassy want with me? Hitomi asked timidly. You're being targeted by a dangerous criminal. I'm here to take you into protective custody. Custody? Achi's temper flared. Buzz off, pal. We're busy here. Busy searching for Maria Osawa? Stanley asked. Achi and Hitomi exchanged glances. I know the full details of the trouble you currently find yourselves in. Well, alright then, Achi said. Then you should know that we don't have time to get taken into custody. I'm afraid you don't understand the situation we're dealing with. We're up against a dangerous international criminal here. Taking reckless action is only going to put her life in danger. Don't be a fool. This is no time to play the knight in shining armor. Hey. Achi was infuriated, but he couldn't think of a comeback. After all, it was true that Hitomi had run into danger time and time again while she was with him. But I'm already safe, Hitomi insisted. I'm only here right now because Achi has been protecting me. She eyed Stanley sharply. I've got Achi with me. I don't need your protection. Achi felt a surge of pride that practically brought tears to his eyes. If Hitomi would have let him, he'd have given her an enormous hug. Stanley grimaced in resignation. Alright. In that case, how about I join your search for Maria? I can help keep you safe that way instead. I don't know. Hitomi grabbed a hold of Achi's sleeve. The Stanley fellow didn't have the most trustworthy face, Achi thought. But he realized that he might be biased after being chased around by foreigners all day. After all, if this guy really were after Hitomi, he'd probably have already made a show of force. Not only did he have a gun on him, he was sufficiently skilled in martial arts to hold his own against Kanan. He'd have no trouble taking down a single unarmed opponent like Achi. Hitomi, I get the impression the Stanley guy's not our enemy right now. Hitomi gave a slight nod. Alright. I trust your judgment on this, Achi. Now then, what's the plan from here? Stanley asked. Not wandering aimlessly around town, I hope. There was a trace of snideness in his voice. You can just keep your mouth shut, Achi replied. We can wander around town all day if we feel like it. Two can play that snarky game, he thought to himself. Poor Hitomi looked distressed. Very well, if that's what you want, I can stay quiet. But first I need to inform the police that I have Miss Osawa in my custody. Wait, hold on, Hitomi blurted. That isn't a good idea. Stanley inclined his head. Why is that? Well, since you already seem to know most of the story, Hitomi quickly exclaimed that the kidnapper's threat and described the search explained the kidnapper's threat and described the search for the minivan. Stanley remained quiet, listening with obvious interest. I see, he said when she had finished. Still, when that minivan exploded, didn't that make your promise to the kidnappers a moot point? Hitomi nodded. I suppose it did, didn't it? Let me ask you just one more question. Do either of you know a detective by the name of Tatsuno? No. We haven't run into any detectives. Yeah, exactly. The only folks we seem to run into are guys who are after Hitomi. I see. A grim expression crossed Stanley's face. Right, I'm going to get in touch with the investigation task force. I'll have them contact your parents for you. Would you mind speaking with them so they can confirm it's really you? Sure, alright, Hitomi said. Stanley got on his wireless and described their current circumstances to the police. Mr. Endo, hold on. Suddenly, Dr. Saki appeared, running down the hallway. There's something I forgot to tell you. Regarding your father. Oh? Achi got a sinking feeling. I got a call from him yesterday afternoon, and he asked me something rather odd. Preparations for a transplant? I'm sorry, I'm not entirely sure I understand what you're asking. Sakai clutched the receiver. Daisuke Endo's brooding tone was more than a little disturbing. No, it's alright, Endo said. This is all just difficult to talk about, Doctor. Please, forget I said anything. There's just one important thing I wanted to let you know. Yes? There's going to be a brain-dead woman coming your way at probably around 9 o'clock this evening, I expect. Her blood type is Bombay. Bombay was the extremely rare blood type that Endo's daughter, Suzune, possessed. Any transplant donor for Suzune would also need to have the Bombay blood type. Since she has the same blood type as Suzune, the transplant itself isn't an issue, Endo continued. The only thing I'm concerned about is whether the procedure can be done within the limited time window. And I hate to trouble you, but I just called because I think it would be best to prepare for the surgery as soon as possible. The more Saki heard, the more disturbed he grew. Or Seiki. It felt like he was listening to this man go on about some strange delusion. Doctor, just please take good care of Suzune. With that, Endo hung up. Achi kept quiet as he listened to Dr. Seiki tell his story. Of course, that was yesterday, and I still haven't heard anything about a brain-dead girl turning up. After all, only God would know when someone would wind up in the state of brain death. But still, there was just something very strange about what your father said. It was as if he was certain that someone was going to wind up brain dead, or Just stop right there, Achi exclaimed. Stanley Hitomi turned in surprise. They were still in the middle of their wireless call to the police. Don't get me wrong, Achi said hastily. I'm not trying to imply that your father would hurt anyone. What I'm worried about is your father's mental state and... No, Achi interrupted him again. That's not it. His own words from earlier spun within his head. So long as we have these cameras, this guy has nowhere to run. The security cameras. I'm sure this is the place. The man with the cane. He'd been on the phone with someone. That didn't mean anything. It was just a coincidence. It couldn't be true. Achi searched desperately for some other explanation. That was it. Anyone from the downtown committee could have used the camera monitoring room. Yeah, no one's been by to check today. Nothing wrong with a little nap, yeah? No dice. No one from downtown had been by the surveillance room today. It couldn't be. It couldn't. Achi began to tremble. Is something the matter? Or is something the matter? Hitomi asked. Sorry, she wasn't in focus. Achi, you're pale as a ghost. Achi gazed beseechingly back into her face. With just one simple question, he could clear this whole thing up. Please tell me I'm overthinking this. He prayed inwardly before asking. Hitomi, would you mind telling me your blood type? Why do you ask? Please, just tell me. I have a sort of weird blood type, Hitomi said. It's called Bombay. The last piece of the puzzle fell into place. There was no longer any room for doubt. Achi found himself facing a sad and painful truth. Why? Why? With an anguished scream, Achi punched the wall as hard as he could. But his fist still didn't hurt as much as his heart. Dad, why? Okay, sorry, I just wanted to get through that because it seemed really important. Oh boy. So we know that I think Maria was found, she woke up in a storehouse. We think it's Endo's storehouse because I'm sorry. We think it's Endo's storehouse because the two thugs mentioned Endo's storehouse specifically, and also mentioned that the goods were gone. Now we have the bomb drop that Achi's dad has been the one that has been has been keeping track of him, of Achi and Hitomi, and telling the detective Tatsuno where to find him. So we can assume that Tatsuno is helping Endo, Achi's dad, Endo Senior. Maybe he is in the photo, and that they are good friends. The thing is that Achi doesn't recognize Tatsuno, but Tatsuno at least knows Achi's name. He even tells Achi that this will be better for everyone. Yeah. Well, it sounds like Achi's dad is just in desperation mode, and when people are desperate, sometimes they do things that are not very good. And like, it makes sense that that's how the detective could always find them. As for why it is that detective and why it comes up now, like, so I wonder what the chain of events are, right? Is Achi's dad part of the kidnapping? Again, we have this weird assumption, but it is just an assumption that Maria was at least put into the storehouse. And we know that the kidnappers were only after Hitomi. But they're using Maria as a what's the word? Like a patient zero, or to cause an outbreak, right? Did Achiendo involved with the kidnapping, and then when they got the wrong person? No. So they are very clear and consistent with the fact that Maria and Hitomi are not identical twins. They're only fraternal. They do look exactly alike because they're played by the same actress, and the game basically says, hey, they look so alike, they might as well be identical twins, but they are not identical twins, and thus they could have different blood types. So I'm trying to figure out how Maria fits into all this, right? We know Maria knows about the kidnapping before it happens. We know Maria goes to the party to get kidnapped in order to save her sister. Somewhere along the line, Maria loses her memory, gets injected with the UA virus, and then wakes up in a storehouse. But the storehouse is unlocked, and she just walks out. So she's not in, like, the grasp of the criminals. But we also know that they implanted UA virus and probably intended for her to just walk around to spread it. But where does Achiendo's dad fit into this, right? Achiendo's dad has all the cameras for Shibuya. Achiendo's dad also, like I said, when they were talking with the SOS members were talking about Endo's electronics and talking about goods and how they were all gone. And they mentioned Endo's storehouse. So what does that mean? Anyway, this is a lot of questions that the Achi storyline has just like dropped on us all of a sudden. It is weird though, if Achi's dad was intending to get Hitomi killed, why didn't he try? Well, I guess Achi had his phone off the entire time, but he didn't even attempt to like contact him and try to get him to like fall into a trap or something. How's Achi gonna die this time? Well, I know that it's late. It's about 2:08 here. I have the time. It's right there. Hello, time. I moved some scenes around so I have to find the ending screen. I want to play more of this tomorrow. Again, Sundays don't always add up because the Sunday is not really the day. I don't know. It's hard for me to get a stream going on weekend nights. But I would like to see more of this, especially since it feels like we're in like the real shit. Like everyone's now connected to the virus thing. The virus thing is like the real thing. The kidnapping was just for the virus stuff. And we are at the virus stuff. I'm gonna go save the game because I like to exit properly in case this game is weird and like, oh, you didn't exit the game, you didn't save, haha. Yeah, that's the thing. My weekends are very like up in the air. which is why I have to do it so late, and even then I'm still not sure. By the way, was the chat cool? Because it's a new chat window. Hello, new chat window. I was just seeing if you're in front of me. You are. That's perfect. Don't look at the schedule. This is last week's schedule. But if you had to know, we didn't stream a lot this week. So it'll probably look exactly the same as this, with the only difference being that thing in the back, the Neo Turf Masters. I am part of a Neo Turf Master community event. Last week we played on Thursday? Was it Thursday? Tuesday. It was Tuesday. We did golf on Tuesday. We haven't made plans for the second round. So we don't know if that will be on my channel. We don't know when it will be. So just keep an eye out. You can look at my blue sky, which is up here.
Great play. You're playing much better.
Thank you. He's so polite. He's polite when I'm looking at him. He doesn't want to tell me any shit. I'm on Blue Sky or on Discord, so if you need to... Oh, are Stretch and Hydrate still disabled? I had them disable them for the golf game. I didn't realize they were disabled fully. Well, okay, I'll fix that later. I didn't want to have to stretch and hydrate in the game that I couldn't pause him, you know? And I was playing online with other people. Anyway. So yeah, next week, the schedule's gonna look basically like this. We're gonna finish Urban Runner. Maybe finish Bomberman 64? I kind of doubt it. We have a level, and then we have a final world, but we also still have, like, collectibles to go collect. And if this game is like other Bomberman 64 games, you generally need all the collectibles to access the final thing. But we'll see. And then Friday is Rosencrantz Stilette, a 2007 Dojin Goth Lolita Mega Man. It's got a sequel like a couple years back, as well as it got ported to Steam. But this will be part of my like the 2000s indie Dojin stuff I've been doing. And then, you know, more 428 if there's more 428. Which feels like there's gonna be. Bardic Broadcast playing Shufflepuck Cafe. Monty is just chatting. SQ Pat's playing Farland Odyssey. Ikanawa Guild playing Mega Man X. Looks like he's in X2 though, based on the thumbnail. Slowbeef is playing The New Adventures of Walrus and Archaeologist. I wonder if Stadler's in the Indiana Jones game. Mr. Radon is still playing that golf game. I'm gonna raid Mr. Radon. I usually like raiding him. He's a nice guy, and I don't know. He's doing that project where he's trying to 100% every N64 game. So go say hi to Golf. Not Golf, he's playing bowling. He's playing a bowling game. And I'll see you guys maybe tomorrow night for more 428. If not, Tuesday. See y'all later. Bye. Excuse me. Bye. Bowling is like a golf. You're right. Good night.